Welcome to Philosophical Fall Guy. Here, Hollywood's top stunt performers share their stories of what really goes on behind the scenes. Then we dive deep into their psyche to see what drives them and what they ponder about in those moments of quiet between the chaos. I'm your host, Duke Jackson. Join me as we pull back the curtain on Hollywood's biggest stunts to see the deeper story. Buckle up. We're going for a ride. Welcome back to Philosophical Fall Guy. Today we have a very special guest, a true stuntman of stuntmen, in my opinion. He's done it all. He's done cannon rolls, pipe ramps, car turnovers, car jumps, car hits, crashes. He's done high falls, fire burns, horse work, saddle falls, fight scenes. I mean, you name it, he has done it. And he's still here to talk about it. So he has over 40 years experience in the business, and according to IMDb, which is probably lower than the actual number, he has 151 stunt credits. He has 32 actor credits. He's known for movies including all the Hunger Games, The Patriot, one of my favorites, Furious 7, and Taken 3, just to name a few. He has been nominated for 2 awards, including one for Outstanding Action Performance by a Stunt Ensemble for Stranger Things, and another for the same category but different show called Homeland. But what's really great about him is that once you get underneath that tough, rugged stuntman exterior lies a true heart of gold. The one and only, none other than Lonnie Smith.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a great honor to have you on my show, and thank you very much.
Glad to be here.
And you might see we're in a different location today. We're actually at Lonnie's houseboat up here on Lake Lanier, so we got a little ambiance going today.
That's because I was too damn lazy to come to your place.
Well, I think you've earned that right. So, anyways, Lonnie, I got a few things here that kind of wrote down to kind of keep us on track, hopefully. But we talked a little bit before, and I know it's kind of hard to pin down, when you actually draw the line of coming into the stunt business. But I'll ask you first, what did you do before you were a stuntman?
Well, you already got the jokes. We won't go through those again. I was a musician. I actually started out as a guitar player, singer in restaurants and nightclubs around town in the early 70s.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
Did pretty well with it. I actually played with the Atlanta Symphony at Chastain Park with it was called the Best of Atlanta concert. And that was an interesting time. And praise the Lord, I did pretty well at it, made a pretty good living. And then...
and how long was that for about? Did you do that?
Well, I played professionally. I played in front of people starting in 1971, and I really, really sucked. I was there. I had a manager of a place called the Seven Steers Restaurant, and even if nobody was in there, he made me play all 6 of my sets. And I got really upset about that, but I realized
you got practice.
months later he was doing that for me to make me practice and get better. And during that time I was there, I got a lot better. And it was a wonderful gift from him.
Yeah.
So somebody forcing me to work.
What style of music did you play mostly?
Well, I call it elevator music.
Elevator music.
Yeah, I was most of the time I was playing for a female crowd, and so I played music for them, and their boyfriends or husbands would get a little bit irritated, but they were going home with the girls. So I said, you know, you might thank
fair.
me later. But I did a lot of in the beginning of my career, which was in the 70s, I did a lot of Glenn Campbell type stuff, and because
And I
prided
think if I heard his music, I'd probably know. But Glenn Campbell, like, what's a song or something that he's
Gentle on My Mind.
Which
It's
one?
knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. That's
Nice.
one of his songs
Okay.
and stuff. And I probably shouldn't have done that without my guitar, but did it anyway. But I learned a lot just from watching and listening to him. I did a lot of his songs in the beginning of my career because he was very famous at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dan Fogelberg and guys like that came along, and Steely Dan and some of the 70s guys, you know, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. I did a lot of their stuff, and David Gates and Bread and all that stuff. Matter of fact, I did If by David Gates with the Atlanta Symphony. And,
Wow. That's awesome. And you said you had mostly females. Is that because you kind of got a following? Is that what happened?
It wasn't mostly females. That's what I directed my music to.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
In other words, I wasn't
Okay.
playing honky tonk stuff for the guys to
Right.
get drunk and, you know, stuff.
You sang
And
more towards
the
them.
other point to it was the reason I played stuff like that because it was much harder to play, harder to sing, and most of the time somebody's going, "Hey, play Freebird." Yeah, right, whatever.
I still do that
No, I don't.
every single time.
I never played Freebird. I said, "Do I look like a damn band to you? It's just me. Come on." But anyway.
So you're going along as a musician and getting some gigs, and sounds like the career is kind of starting to go somewhere and pick up a little bit. But you get sidetracked a little bit here. So what's took you off of that music course?
Into stunt work, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Well, what happened was I can't remember John's last name, but he worked for Channel 5, and he would come and hear me and my partner, Wayne Parham at the time. We had a duo at a place called Nantucket Taverns over by Lenox Square. And he came in quite often after work. Very nice gentleman and stuff. And he, at one point, said, "I want to introduce you to my agent," and who was Linda McNaughton at the time. And I think you might be a good model. And so, make a long story longer, I met her, and I ended up doing some modeling work and got quite a bit of it. And then she sent me on an audition.
And this is just like Prince magazine kind of stuff, or
Yeah, you know, print, magazine.
Yeah.
I actually had, I guess I should tell you this one. This is actually real funny. So,
Playgirl?
Huh?
Playgirl?
Damn close. This is going to be a little bit of an involved story, but not too bad.
That's all right.
You just brought it to mind. I completely forgot about this one. At that particular time in my life, I was pretty well built. And so I got hired to do what was called a Novo still job.
Novo.
It was a jock strap with a full back on it. And so the shot is me, head to toe, and in front of me was a naked girl. So when you looked at me from behind, you saw her outline, just part of it.
Oh, okay.
But she's completely naked in front of me. I've never thought about baseball in my life until we did that job. And that is the truth. And they made a 6.
Could you name all of the top
I didn't know
runners
anything
and
about
hitters?
baseball at all. I was making names up.
Making names up. Who's on first?
Yeah. What the hell's on second? But it was funny when the girl that they used happened to be a bartender who I knew really well. Beautiful girl. And she comes out in a bathrobe, and she said, "Lonnie, I'm so glad it's you." And I said, "Well, yeah, how you doing?" Yeah. And then
You didn't know at this point that she was going to be naked.
not one damn idea. And anyway, I'm sitting there, and they said, "We got to do some test shots first." So said, "Are you ready?" And he's saying that to her, and she's kind of a little nervous. I still can't figure it out. She drops the robe, and I look down and go, "Oh boy!" And she's going to be pressed right up against me. And luckily,
Wow.
I thought ahead because apparently I'm not hung that well, and so we had to stuff some stuff down there to make it look a little bit bigger if they, whatever.
So that kept things in place.
Yeah. Boy, did it keep things in place. And that was. I won't go into any more detail than that, but it was an interesting job. They made a 6-foot cutout of that thing, and it was in stores. The only redeeming value is you never saw my face.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, you never saw my face. So nobody knew it was me. So
nobody knew it was you.
Yeah. But anyway, and I didn't even make that much money on that shot. I think it was like $120 or something like that. But that was about standard for that time because
sounds about right.
You get paid an hour.
70s. What is it? 70s?
It only took about an hour to shoot that thing. Luckily. But,
I mean, back in what is the 70s probably?
That would have to be in around 78, 79.
Yeah, that's pretty good back then.
Yeah. Oh no, it was good, but you had to wait so long to get the money anyway. But you were starving by the time you got the check. But
so she got you into the modeling, and then how did that transition?
Well, what happened then was, and I have to admit, I don't really know chronologically. There we go with that word again. How this transpired, but it's close, was that Linda McNaughton sent me for an audition for a TV show, and it wasn't out yet. It was Dukes of Hazzard, and I auditioned for the part of Bo Duke, and over a course of I think it was 12 days or so, they picked me and signed me to a contract to play Bo Duke.
That is amazing.
But Linda McNaughton was a green agent, and I was very green. And little did we know they signed about 7 or 8 people to the same contract. So that by the time they decided to pick somebody to go out for the final screen test, which I got picked for that, up until...
So the contract just covers like a certain amount of time?
7 years.
7 years, but did they have to pay that out to you, or...?
No. How that works is the contract is set. So if I get hired, in other words... We thought I already was hired. I wasn't hired yet.
It was
the contract was just signed so that when they decided on who it was, there was no bickering about a contract. It was done.
It was already done.
Yeah. Which there was plenty of bickering anyway. Would have been if it. But anyway.
Man, you would have been a great Bo Duke.
Well, the funny thing, John Schneider, who got it, was a friend of mine. He used to sit in with me and my partner singing.
Oh, really?
Yes. And matter of fact, he knew me well enough where he said when he found out I was going and he was going, that he wanted to stop in Las Vegas and gamble. And I said, I don't do that stuff. But anyway, I don't know the time frame.
So you guys had to go out to L.A. for this?
I never went. What happened was, I think it was like 2 or 3 days prior to me getting ready to go, they canceled me.
Oh.
And they took Tom Wopat out of L.A., and then Tom Wopat ended up playing Luke, and John Schneider played Bo. And the end result of that for me was that instead of being deflated by it, I went, that's pretty good for my first time. So I hung in, and then as far as...
Was that pretty much your first acting audition?
As best I can remember, yeah, because it was pretty interesting. And even my wife was going, that's pretty neat. And but
I feel you would have been a real natural at that role.
I think that's, but well, actually, as you well know, that it wasn't about either one of those guys. It was about the car. Yeah. It was about the stunts, and it was about Craig Baxley with the stunt coordinator on that show and all that stuff. So.
And they wouldn't have had that stunt double you, man.
yeah. But yeah.
But that didn't pan out, but it still went pretty far for one of your first attempt. So you.
Yeah. So I hung in there, and then I really don't know much after that. I met a lady named Sylvia Mays who got me a job on a couple movies. The Prize Fighter one with Don Knotts and as a extra, and I ended up meeting a guy named Glenn Wilder, and I don't know time frame wise exactly how this worked out. I don't really remember, but I ended up going to a fight school that he set up in the bottom of a hotel while they were shooting one of the Burt Reynolds movies here. And I had been a martial artist and fighter and stuff, and and he showed us how to do stuff, how to play to the camera and do all that, make sure your punches and reactions were good. And I seemed to pick it up immediately. And he told me, he said, "You're good at this. You kind of need to stick with this." And then I worked on an Italian movie with John Saxon, and I had a big fight scene in that and did real well. And
Do you happen to remember what the name of it was?
No.
No.
I can't. I want to say The Slayer, but I don't. I think it might have been The Slayer, but it was an Italian. It was an Italian movie made
and
here.
they'll
We
go
never
back to Italy to show.
went back. We never saw it
Never
here.
saw
I never
it.
saw it. But I haven't seen half the stuff I've worked on. So, and because I can never remember. But I ended up doing pretty well in the fight scene, and the Italian stunt coordinator couldn't speak English, so through an interpreter, he told me that I was very good at fight scenes. I should stay in the business. And so basically that's what I did. And then one thing led to another, and here in Georgia, there weren't any stunt guys. So, I mean, I was green as you could possibly get, but because of a special effects group with Bob Shelley, Vern Hyde, and Dick Cross, that's where I learned burns. We figured it out on our own. I didn't have a big brother teaching me this.
Right.
That's why I've got 32 fractures. I said, okay, that didn't work well. Let's not do it that way again. And at least
Check that one off.
At
the
least
list.
I was smart enough. I said, let's try this again, thinking the result will be different. No. I was smart enough. Said, no, okay, we don't want to do it that way again.
Process of elimination.
Yeah. Unlike some other things we're seeing now, said, well, that didn't work. We'll do it again, and we'll expect it to work this time. So no, but I ruined some of my own cars learning how to slide and do all that stuff. And if my wife sees I ruined her car, she had a really nice Malibu. I used to slide the heck. I warped the axle on that and everything.
Oh no.
And but I told her later about it. But that's how I learned some of my car work.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the stunt business is, as you well know, you can go to all the classes in the world, but until you get on the set and you're under that pressure and they say action and you don't hesitate, then you know you're on your way.
Yeah.
Because when you're up on the top of the building or wherever and they say action, by then you don't hesitate, you go.
You go.
And,
it's interesting you bring that up. On one of my earlier interviews with Noon, we kind of talked a little bit, touched on this about how being a stunt person, well, one, it's not just about, being crazy, willing to do, anything. And it's also not just about being the top at what you do, like top gymnast or athlete. But there's this, like you said, this certain type of person that when they're put on the spot and they hear that action, that it clicks something inside of them and they're able to bring it out and perform. And there's other people who are amazing, maybe martial artists or gymnasts or athletes, but when put on that position or that spot where they got to perform in front of all these people and cameras with pressure and even have to do it more than once, they collapse. They can't bring it out.
I don't necessarily, it's like you can teach somebody a fight scene. I've got some stunt guys I've taught fight scenes to, and they can't pick it up because the fight scenes is most people think it's a dance, and it's a choreographed dance that you set up to the point and write it down to where everybody knows it by the time you roll camera, so they can do it over and over and over again and do it the same way and do it correctly. And if they have to change it, they can change it, but it's some people have that feel and some people don't. They'll never get it, but they're good at motorcycles or they're good at horses or good at cars or something like that. And but a lot of times, by the time you hear roll camera, action Lonnie, or now we go 3, 2, 1, go. When you hear go, you go. Because by then your mind is so set on that stunt. You've rehearsed it so much in your mind, whether it's a car roll, a cannon roll, or whatever. When they say action, you go. And because you're set for it. Now, you can talk to people about this that don't do stunts, and they'll look at you like you're the dumbest idiot in the world. Why do you do this? Well, it's fun, and it's something can kill you, but it's fun because nobody else does it. We're in rarefied atmosphere as a stunt guy. Even if you're a green stunt man, you're still in rarefied atmosphere because there are not that many stunt men who work and make a living at it. So it's a neat job. If you really look at it, it's a stupid job. Because most of the time you're not treated real well on a set anyway because you make more money than most people do. They don't want you there, but you're a necessary evil, and a lot of times you're just an insurance policy. But we also, how many times do you see trailers of movies that do not have stunts in them? Unless it's a complete talking heads movie.
If there is a stunt in the movie, it'll be in the trailer.
In the trailer. And because especially if it's the only stunt in the movie, it'll be in the trailer, and people go see the movie and say, "That was it," or the stunt guy does.
So you've kind of transferred into this stunt side of things because of fight scenes that you've been involved in, and the coordinators kind of saw this potential that was in you, and then you basically were like, "Yeah, that sounds cool," and I want to pursue it. So you start kind of sliding your own cars, and you get with a special effects company and start learning some different things. And
they're the guys who really got me started because there were no other stunt people, and so basically they would get hired as effects people on a job with a car crash in it.
Okay.
And so there was nobody else that they knew, so we got with me. And so we figured out one of the first car crashes I ever did was for a production company. It was actually for Coke. And it was basically the job was about when the company says, do what you say and mean what you say, and do what you mean. So
so do what you say.
And say what you mean, or say what you mean, do what you, whatever it is.
Okay.
Anyway, basically that's what it was. So the shot was that I pull up behind this guy who's having trouble on the side of the road with his vehicle, and he says, "Can you give me a push?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Well, I got to get up to at least 30 miles an hour to get it because it's an automatic transmission." I said, "No problem." So I back up about 50 or 60 yards. And hit him about 35 miles an hour, and I get out of the car. Did it start? And so that was, and we did several of those.
Yes.
For the same production company.
I saw that on your website. By the way, Lonnie has a website. It is, I'll let you say what it is.
Yeah, it's LonnieRSmithJr.com, and it's LonnieRSmithJr.com. Or actually, you can just Google Lonnie Smith Stuntman and scroll down to where it says Cutting Edge Stunts. And it should say Old Man Stunts, but it says Cutting Edge Stunts. And that's the website.
Yeah. And you should check it out. There is some great stuff on there. A bunch of reels of Lonnie doing just about every kind of car wreck, jump, crash. Some fantastic fire burns on there.
Have a beer, it goes by quicker.
But it's some good stuff, and what I like about it is you can tell, kind of the progress through the years too, just by the cars and stuff that are in the videos, and
wearing bell-bottom pants.
Bell-bottom had the styles and stuff.
The first car crash, I had bell-bottom corduroys on. That was like I think it was like 79 or something when I did that.
Oh,
thing.
it's beautiful. It's great. Yeah, and the white Cadillac, right? Was that a Cadillac? Pontiac. Yeah. So that was kind of a great place for you to learn stuff that you wouldn't be able to any other way, like crashing cars.
Well, the effects people were Screen Gem Studios.
Screen Gems, okay.
It used to be Lakewood Fairgrounds, and that special effects company was always on the back side of Building 4, I think it is. And that's where we worked on burns and everything else you can think of, and how to take bullet hits and doing mini tram work, because we really didn't have air rams then. Had mini trams.
Mini trams. Yep.
And figuring out how to do things and how to. We didn't have the equipment for burns then that we have now, because basically we would just use cotton, and
Right.
because cotton doesn't burn, I would go to Army Navy store and buy sateen flight suits, and then I'd have wool. Wool doesn't burn easy, and so that would be kind of an air layer.
Wow.
And we did dry burns. We'd put everything, the clothes next to my skin, in baby powder and put that on to keep your skin from sweating.
Baby powder.
And then the outside layer would be treated. I cannot remember what Bob Shelley treated it with, but then we would just use rubber cement. And
I remember.
nowadays they used
Yeah.
all sorts of different flammable. But rubber cement, I'm sorry, even nowadays it's still the prettiest burn, but it is a very hot burn. And but it's
It gives it that real kind of deep orangish color.
yeah, it's
right?
a real hot burn, and
Yeah.
and you can't burn for more than about 15-20 seconds with it.
So what about? I'm sure you guys didn't have gel.
No, we had no. My wife made my first hoods for me out of some old denim jeans that I had,
Wow.
and cut them to where I could wear those as hoods. And usually our burns were so intense that you couldn't see my head anyway. So,
Right. Just,
but
so you basically just used that. I mean, no gel,
no gels,
Yeah.
couldn't see.
like
And
Vaseline or
all you
anything.
did
like,
was, are you ready, Lonnie? He said, yeah. Okay, on 3, we're going to light you. Okay. And just hold your breath, because the rubber cement has ether in it.
Ooh.
And so when they coat you, you've got to be kind of holding your breath a little bit or you'll pass out.
Yeah.
And but the ether explodes, and that's what's so good about it. When you use a fresh rubber cement and they light you, it doesn't kind of sneak up on you. It just you are on.
Yeah.
And it takes you can't put it out with halon. You've got to put it out with CO2, because it won't go out unless it's smothered.
Wow.
Yeah. Or at least, I don't know what they've got now. They've got so many. The burns now, though, they've taken away the mystique of the burns a lot by.
It's half digital now too. Like they'll start a burn a little bit, and then they'll just go and post, and then they'll add more fire and effects.
And the burns the mystique has been taken out of them, where they'll do burn after burn because they use white gas, which basically is like kerosene or something like that.
It's very cool.
And it just doesn't have, you can see through it. It doesn't have the pretty burn that the rubber cement had. And up until recently, I planned to do a burn where I mixed both rubber cement with that stuff to see if I could get to the point where I could spray it on instead of painting it on.
Right.
But I never got that far. I said to hell with it.
Yeah. So, like, what is like the first real memorable or big movie or TV show, whichever, that you got to work on?
I can't tell you. I can't remember.
You can't remember?
Because they all meant something to me.
Yeah.
And but the very first
There's
one,
not like one that kind of stands out as like you felt like, oh, this is it. I'm in it.
No, they're all fun. Like I worked on a movie called Tank.
Tank?
With James Garner. Yeah,
I do remember that. Yeah.
And there was a scene where the tank comes in to rescue this family, and there's a bunch of bad guys in trucks all around. And so the tank comes in and starts firing. The guys get in the trucks and start driving away and wrecking and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the trucks we had would barely run. And the one that I got into didn't even have a seat. I had to sit on an apple box. There was no harnesses, no nothing.
Wow.
And got in there, and the first 2 times I got in there, crank it up, and I went to pull away, and it just they would cut because it wouldn't go, because I'm supposed to crash the truck into somebody else. Well, it wouldn't go. And all of a sudden I'm hearing somebody next to me say, "You going to buy this truck after the show?" And it was James Garner. And he was very good with all the stunt guys. He liked it. He sat down and ate with us and stuff. He was a good man. I worked with him several times.
He
But,
was.
anyway, we did the truck crashes, and we didn't use harnesses. We just
Wow.
I sat on an apple box and just held the steering wheel when I finally got it running to do the car crash. Granted, we weren't going that fast, 20, 25 miles an hour or something.
Yeah,
like
but
that.
still.
Yeah, well, it was fun.
don't
We
know.
didn't know any better then.
Yeah.
I mean, we were going, okay, that's good. Are you hurt? Oh, no.
Not that bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So one thing that I think is interesting about you, Lonnie, is how you were able to make such a successful business in the Hollywood business and never having lived in Hollywood. That had to be, I don't know, that had to be difficult.
Yeah, it was very difficult. And plus, I was called a big fish in a small pond.
Mm.
And by a lot of stunt guys, because they said I would never make it simply because I didn't go to L.A. But I did go to L.A. and I was planning to try to make it out there.
Yeah. What year was this about?
I can't tell you. It wasn't. It was when I was actually acting too. When I went out there to audition for NBC, CBS, and ABC, just to have meetings with them and stuff.
Mm.
But I was planning to. I met with some stunt people. I actually stayed with a stunt guy I work with on a movie, Chuck Norris movie. Can't remember the name of the movie. It was shot here. I'll think of it probably by the time we cut the mics off. But
It's usually the way it is.
yeah, it was. Yeah, 10 concussions.
Yeah,
But,
we'll get into that.
yeah.
So you went out there for to try it out, test the waters.
Right, and what happened was, thanks for remembering for me. What happened was that I just realized that place wasn't for me.
Yeah.
It was all my attitude sometimes doesn't reflect it, but I'm very much a Christian, very much love the Lord, and I realized that was not going to be a place for me. And so I came back here, and again, praise the Lord, I was able to make a halfway decent living. And
That's a testimony right there.
right.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where it was. And the nice thing about being the kind of the first coordinator around here, the one thing about being a stunt coordinator, if you have the right kind of heart, it's not just about you. It's about the people you can hire, so they can make a living and put food on the table. And we make pretty good money, but unlike most of the people on a movie set, they work every day. We come in and maybe work 3 or 4 days out of the whole show.
Exactly.
And so they said, well, yeah, you got $5,000 for that Canon roll. I said, yeah, but one time
day.
you're working the whole show, you're going to make 10 times that.
Right.
So we do okay, but it's not great.
Yeah.
And people don't realize when times are tough, it's very tough.
It's very tough.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and then you've got a lot of people too that say they're stunt people and aren't, but they get hired anyway. And it's because they'll undercut you or whatever. But
Right.
but again, it still works out fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You come across your bad apples every once in a while.
Yeah. And I mean, you can't be judgmental, but sometimes you have to realize too that some of those people, they're not going to be safe. And
That's the
if
problem.
they don't, if they don't get themselves killed, they're going
Right.
to kill somebody else.
Right.
And it's kill is probably a poor choice of words. Let's say you're going to get somebody else hurt.
Hurt, injured.
And
yeah.
but the one thing about the stunt business is not if you get hurt, it's when. If you've never been hurt as a stunt man, you ain't doing your job.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I agree. I think there's like this. There's two kind of these ideas out there. One is like stuntmen are crazy; they'll do anything, and they get injured all the time. And then the other one is that came around is like they're completely precise and safe and predictable and never. It's not really risky at all. And
it's got to be in the middle of
it's
the
in
road.
the middle there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's and there aren't very many stunt guys that are like the first. That
No.
they're crazy and I'll do anything.
They don't last long.
I've had guys come up and say, I'll do anything, and I said, no, you won't. And but most of the time, like I said earlier, by the time you get to the stunt, if you're any kind of intelligent, have any kind of common sense, which a lot of people think stunt people are not very bright. in one way that's true, but in most ways, you are trying to make the stunt for the production company that
Mhm.
looks outstanding for them, that you can make it as absolutely safe as possible.
Yeah.
But the problem is,
and
it's-
spectacular.
it's, yeah, well, make it look great, but
Yeah.
it's still a stunt. And you can only make a stunt so safe. The rest of it, you just have to close your eyes and cowboy up and do it.
Right.
But, you know, like getting hit by a car, you know, a pedestrian getting hit by a car, that's a potential ass whooping.
Right.
And so it's a term that I learned from a stunt coordinator. It's called eating the rat.
Eating the rat.
Eating the rat. And what it means is, you know, before you ever do the stunt, you're going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's called eating the rat.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right. And that's a mentality that is kind of going away in the stunt business.
I think it's because the CGI has created a place now where the idea of a big stunt is somebody on a cable going across a room,
Mm-hmm.
but not stepping off a building without a cable
Right.
on. We don't do high fall. Everything's
No.
either on cables or CGI or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But when I came up, there was no cables.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was no CGI. You had to use cables,
Right.
and a lot of times you use piano wire, and so the camera wouldn't see it. But piano wire breaks,
Right.
and it usually breaks at the top. It doesn't break at the bottom.
Mm.
And I've had that happen before, but
Wow.
luckily I was young enough it didn't hurt me. But
Wow. And I think that's kind of the mystique with stunts. Like you said, you know, sometimes they get a rap of stunt people aren't very smart, but it's a mystique because it's something that we've tried to make as safe as possible and do it and predict it and repeat it. But if you take away all risk,
it's not a stunt.
it's not a stunt.
That's what
and anybody can do
on
it.
so many shows. I had
And-
producers coming up to me when I was a stunt coordinator on Walking Dead and a couple other shows, and they come up and said, "Lonnie, is this stunt perfectly safe?" And I said, "Yes, if you write it out of the script." And because otherwise it's not a stunt. It's not going to be perfectly safe. There's
Right.
no way of just throwing a punch at an actor.
Is not perfectly safe.
No. If that actor
Right.
all of a sudden steps where he's not supposed to be and gets clocked, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden the production company's blaming the stunt guy, I said, "No, this dummy moved."
Yeah.
And
You know, I worked on I won't say what it is, but I worked on a production pretty recently, and they had a safety, I think they call him a safety coordinator. And
one of those new things that came on the scene for absolutely no damn reason.
yeah, except to make your life difficult. And the fight scenes, when there was an actor around, they had this safety coordinator, and he was watching to make sure that, I forget the exact, but I think it was like something ridiculous, like 16 inches away from the actor.
The punch.
Yeah, the punch, the kick, the whatever it is that could potentially harm the actor. He was there to make, like, the gap was like something like this big. And I was like, that's just ridiculous. It's crazy.
Well, that's you can make anything work, but
You can make it work, but it makes it challenging.
it makes it very challenging for camera positions and
Right.
stuff like that, especially
And-
if you're doing handheld and all
And
that.
I would say even for the performing, because when you are in a fight scene and somebody's throwing punches at you, and if it's at least a reasonable distance away, it's
This-
easier to react to.
This is what I told all the stunt people. This is what you want when you're
Thumbing,
fighting
yeah.
with an actor.
Yeah,
That's where you want to be. From that finger to your thumb, that's how close you want to be.
hmm
You don't want to get too much closer. You don't want to get too much farther away.
right.
And that will be sufficient for the actor. Now, if we're fighting stunt guy to stunt guy, I don't care.
Yeah,
and if
same
you
here.
get hit,
Yeah, it's not.
my chances are we don't ball our fists up.
Right.
You know, it's kind of so if you do get hit, it's not going
I
to
mean,
hurt.
you shouldn't. Yeah, you shouldn't be throwing everything into your punch, anyways. If you're,
Well, you
you
wanna,
know, you want it to look good, but
yeah,
you're
it's
not really putting
what I've always told people too, and I've told you this before. I'm pretty sure that a stunt guy, to be a good stunt man, to be a good fighter, you got to be an actor. You got to be a good actor. When you come in there, everything that you do, every fight scene you're in, it's got to show in your face.
Yeah.
It's got to show
In your whole body.
realism, and
Yeah.
do the dance and have the look on your face when you're throwing the punch, because a lot of times when you're throwing the punch, the camera's over the shoulder of the actor or the guy you're hitting, and they've got to see it in your face. If you're just throwing a punch, it's done. You've got to have it there, and so be an actor first, then a stunt guy when you're doing fight scenes.
Yeah.
When you're in a car with a helmet on, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I'd just like to hear about some of the stunts that you've done, some of your favorite gags. So what I remember from watching the website videos, some that stand out in my mind. So there was one where I forget what kind of car it was, but it was a green car. I think maybe a white stripe.
Dodge Challenger.
It was a Dodge Challenger.
Right. And it was brand new, Dodge.
Brand
it's
new.
The only new car I've ever wrecked in my life. It had 81 miles on it.
Oh man.
And
well, what year what year are we talking here?
pardon me?
What year are we talking here?
I think it's about 9 years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago, something like that. It was called Ben 10 Alien Swarm, and it was a live action where they had the cartoon characters were real actors. And so this particular car stunt was, they were being chased by this mechanical creature, and the creature got in front of them and flipped the car over. And so they CGI'd that in later, so we just used my pipe ramp. And that particular pipe ramp, I've used so many times. And I still have it. And it was used not too long ago on Walking Dead by Lance Gilbert, flipping it.
Lance Gilbert.
Yeah. And,
I worked for him.
Yeah, Lance is a good guy. I've known him since he was a young guy. Yeah, he's excellent.
You knew Mickey probably.
Oh yeah, Mickey
His dad.
Gilbert. He went to be with the Lord not too long ago,
Right,
and a very good Christian man too.
Yeah.
But I worked with him on a movie called Free Jack, where I went to the hospital that day.
Really?
Yeah. It was,
Well, back to this car turnover. So it was a pipe ramp that you hit.
I hit it about. I had to disengage traction control on that because I was on dirt, and so I couldn't get it up because it kept bogging. No, kept bogging on me.
Oh, we cut out.
So I had to disconnect the traction control, and in doing so, I lost my speedometer. So I just
how fast?
I went through. I was at that time. I was going through some issues health-wise. I had Graves' disease, and I didn't realize what these problems were, but I wasn't feeling really good that night, and so I didn't care. And so we had to take the fence down, so I get up to speed. I got to speed. I just kept my foot in it. If you look at it, you'll see me dicing all over the place before I hit, because the stunt guy thought I was going to abort, and I said, hell no, I'm not.
No.
And,
well, we'll put a clip in that one over the top of this as we're talking, so people can see it.
okay.
But it looked fantastic, man.
We figured I was probably doing around 50 when I hit. The problem there was they wanted to land a certain way. I was going too fast, and I almost completely rotated back around to the tires, which would have been that would have disturbed me immensely. Because if all of a sudden I did a car jump, but luckily I didn't go quite that fast. And so it went all the way around and hit, and I remember hitting 3 times very hard, and each time expounding a 4-letter word. And it would, because
I was going to say
because it was on the dirt, the car dug in every time you hit. So not like when you hit on pavement, you hit and slide. Dirt, it just beats you to death. And and I knew that, but the 4-letter word still came out. But nobody heard it, so I wasn't mic'd at the time. So I did tell Bob Brubaker, one of the safety guys, that hurt.
And I think that's something that people don't think about, because you're doing like a big stunt like that, and you got the roll cage, yeah, you got the helmet, you got your 5-point harness, and your fire suit, or maybe a few little extra supports here and there. But that impact, there's not really any way to get around that. No matter how much you're padded,
it's flesh inside steel,
you're
not going to be able to stop your flesh from moving.
The vibration of it when it goes through you.
Well, think about this: you're in a harness, and that first hit didn't have a G meter on, but the G's are probably quite extensive. They're
I'm sure,
instantaneous G's, but that's on your chest, and your flesh and organs and everything inside are moving. So there's a potential for a lot of hurt there. And if
that's where a lot of guys get their disc injuries and stuff in their backs, is just those impacts.
well, that's usually because people make a mistake and use a racing seat for car jumps. And you don't want you want to use something that's a little bit more padded, shock the seat or whatever. But then that hurts because you're compressing there. The same thing with the car roll. If you get to a certain place in the car roll and it hits, and then you can get some compression and stuff. And the bad thing for the young stunt guys said, "I've never been hurt before," and I said, "Yeah, you have. You're just not going to know it for about 20 years."
Right.
In 20 years, you're going to be, "Oh, I remember that one."
That. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, hurt is there's a big spectrum there in the word hurt too.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I don't mean hurt, almost dead. It can be something no more
sprained
complicated than going
ankle.
backwards over a table and hitting the floor.
yeah.
And you get up, "Oh, I'm fine. I can do that again." You do it again and again and again. You're fine.
But you're still going to bruise. You're still going to.
It's moving stuff around, and 15, 20, 30 years later, it's going to show up.
It's all show up.
And
yeah.
you're going to be happy because you got good memories.
Yeah.
And I did
Unless you get too many concussions.
Yeah, but I did a Hulk Hogan movie called No Holds Barred, and we had this big
I remember that movie. Yeah.
big fight scene,
Mhm.
and Hulk Hogan actually knocked me out because
Wow.
he didn't.
We have something in common because I fought. But go ahead. I fought Hulk Hogan for a movie once too. But he knocked you out.
Well, he didn't do it on purpose. I'm coming up on the car, and he's supposed to clothesline me. Instead of clotheslining me, he bends his arm and hits me in the temple, knocks me out.
Wow.
And but he almost knocked out the stunt coordinator too, who was in the fight scene. And so he had to put his foot. Buck McDancer put his foot down, said, "We got to watch this." And Terry Hulk Hogan was very nice, but
Yeah.
we did a scene where he sweeps my legs
Mhm.
while I'm on the hood of the car. We did that, I think, during that day probably 12 times. And I had a headache, and then that wouldn't quit. And then we get back up on the car again, and I'm on the fender, and he sweeps my legs. I don't remember how many times we did that. I come off, and then he picks me up and throws me through the windshield. And I was about 190, about what I am now, about 195, 200 pounds. And I had to do the wrestling stuff of helping him up, but
Right.
he still threw me through the windshield.
Wow.
And you don't realize how small a windshield is till you have to go through it that way.
Well, especially when you got a frame of 6'3".
Well, 6'2", whatever. But it was a lot tighter than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it was a limousine, and I was trying. Buck McDancer was doubling the actor in the car, and I was doing everything I could not to kick him in the head when I came through the windshield.
Wow, that's challenging. See, there was somebody in the passenger seat.
The driver's seat.
Oh, our driver's seat?
Yeah.
Wow. That would be a hard one.
Well, if you ever get to see the scene, you'll see my legs kind of fold out. Kind of fold out a little bit. So once I hit, my legs go that way. So I'm trying not to kick them.
Yeah.
And it worked. The frame of the windshield actually stopped me because I couldn't fit through there very well. It looks like a 5-pound you-know-what in a 3-pound bag.
Now, did they pop that glass? Did they have little poppers on it?
That was actually breakaway.
It was breakaway.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
they made a breakaway windshield.
Nice.
So, because they wanted to have the guy in the car, and trying to do that with an explosive charge would have
It's
been a
not
bit
good.
too dangerous.
Yeah, right.
At that time, because that was in the 80s, 1988, I think it was.
Wow.
Yeah. That was a long time.
So I fought Hulk Hogan in a movie called Three Ninjas, High Noon at Mega Mountain. One of my first films that I was in, and I was, I actually played a cowboy stunt guy at a theme park because that's what I was doing at the time. When there was the director, one of the producers, and a locations person. They came up to us after we were done with our stunt show and said, "Hey, you guys want to be in a movie?" And we all were like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And sure enough, turns out they came back with a crew and they made one of those Three Ninja movies, and Hulk Hogan was like the main bad guy. So I got to fight him a couple different times, and
That's
that
cool.
was just
He's a good guy.
cool. He was, yeah,
very nice.
he was very nice. Although at that time, this was '96, I think. He wasn't even doing much of his own fight scenes.
No, he was getting a little up there.
Yeah.
1988 was when we did the thing I was in, and then actually I left at the end of that year and went to New York and worked on a soap opera for 3 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Was that stunts or acting?
Acting.
Acting.
I was on All My Children for.
All My Children. That's a big one. Yeah. So you had like a pretty major role.
It was. They were treating the AIDS epidemic on this particular thing I was on, and I was a holistic doctor that was ripping the Chandler family off.
Okay.
And I had auditioned for a lot of soap operas, and most of the time it was down to me and another guy.
Yeah.
Almost every time somebody else got it, and we found out later it was just because I was a foot taller than everybody else. And the funniest thing is when they finally arrest me at the end of my allotted time on that show, because it was beginning end, it wasn't a continuing character. So the nice thing about going up there was knowing I wasn't going to be staying up there. And New York is, even back then, New York was.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry for anybody from New York. Anyway, so I get arrested at the airport, and it's on my website. If you get a chance to look at it, it's hilarious because I'm a foot taller than everybody in the entire 30 people there. It's hilarious looking at it. And it was actually my best acting job because you could see me.
No matter where, they could see you.
Yeah, it didn't matter, but it was rather humorous.
Yeah.
And I told somebody about that one time, and they told me, and said, "I saw what you were talking about. You're right. You're bigger than everybody else." Is. Yeah, that was one of my problems why I didn't get a lot of acting jobs because I was too tall.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You never know what it will be that it's just a little bit not right. It can be so close.
Well, it's like I tell people, I was a lousy actor. I was like I
don't think so. I've seen you do a couple of things.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
When you see me doing a good job,
yeah,
it's kind of like even a blind squirrel finds a nut. So, but or the clock is the broken clock is right twice a day.
Right twice a time.
Yeah. So.
All right.
But
well.
yeah, it's and there was an attitude of being an actor that I didn't like, where it was always about you.
Entitlement, kind of.
Yeah, it was not about anybody else. It was always about you, and it had to be.
And it has to be.
That was the way it was.
Right.
Stunt work, it's about you, but it's about the people you hire and about their safety and stuff. And it's more like being in the military a little because they're watching your back and you're watching theirs.
Right.
And so that's what kind of drew me to staying in it because it was. And I'm one of those guys who I don't play well with others, and but I learned to do that with stunt work, and I could be myself doing it, and because I have a temper, as you well know, you've seen it a few times, and but it's usually a temper that goes away real quick, and I usually do it for a very good reason, to keep somebody from getting hurt,
safety,
or getting hurt again.
Right, I agree. Yeah, so stunt work suited your personality more so than acting. It sounds like, or your lifestyle. So stunt work suited your lifestyle more than
no,
acting.
it didn't suit my lifestyle. No, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be getting drunk every night and doing drugs and stuff. But no, it was
Still,
just
a lot of stunt guys do that.
Well, I do. Oh, in the beginning of I still can't think of the name of the Chuck Norris movie. 1983. whatever. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it was that was in that time is like every grip truck, every electric truck. When you wrapped at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, or 5 o'clock in the morning, or sunrise, there were cases of beer everywhere. And you'd walk up and pick up, drink a couple, three of them, put a few of them in your stunt bag,
Just for
and
the ride home.
go back to the hotel with a beer in your hand at
Have breakfast, go to bed.
6 o'clock in the morning. And nowadays, nobody's allowed to do that. They've ruined the business. They have completely ruined the fun of it for stunt guys.
I'll say though, there's a couple of stunt guys I've worked for, and there was booze on the set before the actual cut, but that's very rare, very, very rare.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because
So-
yeah, the stunt guys never had to bring beer or anything with them, because the grips would always say, "Hey,
Always
Lonnie, you want a
provided.
Heineken?" So if I don't
Yeah.
drink Heineken, well, we got Budweiser. We got whatever you want here. You want a cocktail? We got that too.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
different
Different
time
times.
then,
Different times.
and stunt work was stunt work then, because
Yeah.
there was no. When you hit the ground, you hit the ground,
Mm.
and
There wasn't like high dense foam the same color as the concrete.
yeah,
Like,
we can paint stuff now, but
Yeah.
now you can even see when somebody hits an 8-inch pad, and
Mhm.
they've painted it out,
mhm.
and because you can see them move when they hit.
Exactly.
And they
It moves
painted that
yeah.
pad out, and so
Right.
people say, "Oh, he hit the concrete." No, he did
No, he
not.
didn't.
No.
No, he didn't. And coming up through it and seeing this evolution of stunts through the years, what's your opinion of it as far as pros, cons, better, worse?
Well, a lot of people said CGI would ruin our business,
Mhm.
and I don't think it has. It has in some way, but they still have to have the stunt guys and everything, whether they're in green suits with dots on them or not.
Mm.
You're still having to do the work,
Mhm.
and actually it becomes more complicated.
Mhm.
I did a TV show called Stranger Things, and we had a car chase that went on for 3 nights in
Mhm.
downtown Atlanta, and the last shot was several cop cars coming up and sliding to a stop, and because a bridge collapsed,
Mhm.
that the psychic was able to cause the collapse. Well, we
Mhm.
had to come up, do all these car crashes, and stop at a particular area. Otherwise, we're under the bridge when it collapses,
Mhm.
and or in the
Right.
CGI shot they're getting
Right.
ready to do. And
So it's interesting how it takes some risk out of the equation for sure. You don't have a real collapsing bridge or whatever, but
you're still doing the crashes.
you're still doing well. That's true. You're still doing the crash.
You're
so,
still doing the
yeah.
car crashes. All the crashes were the same.
But there's more precision maybe now, right? That you have
Much
to.
more precision, because you've got to make sure that that last car hit doesn't send that car into the line where the CGI is going to be.
Right.
And that happens. I worked several movies where, Lonnie, you got to make sure you stop here.
Mhm.
You can't go beyond this point, because that's where the building's going to be landing.
Right.
And
So then you have a VFX guy standing there telling you
several
to
of
do
them.
your job.
Yeah.
How to do your job.
Yeah. I bet it's just that's going back to the safety coordinators and stuff.
Yeah. Mhm.
Not all safety coordinators are bad guys, so I've worked with
Right,
some really, really good ones. I did a cannon roll not too long ago, actually. I was
Yeah.
68 or 69 when I did it.
Really? Yeah. What was that for?
Righteous Gemstones. The red
Righteous
van.
Gemstones.
The red van on my. Did you see the red?
I
van?
did. I saw the red van.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
That was. I want to say I was 69 years old. I just.
That
had my
was
70
was that the night shot too? Was that nighttime? That's what I thought. Yeah, that looked really great. How many times? Do you remember how many times it
4
rolled?
times.
How many?
4.
4.
But
Wow.
they edited it where it looked like I went over about 8 times. So.
Yeah.
The bad part of that story was it became so political. I really didn't want to do the job. It became, it was like, hire somebody else. Because I was ready to back out of it and stuff. But
Right.
the Lord didn't let me back out of that one.
Oh, really?
But it became, it was so political that I just didn't want to do it. But I ended up getting it done, and one part of the story was that a lot of stunt people, because of burns, et cetera, whatever, we develop a modicum of claustrophobia. And I did. Matter of fact, I learned to scuba dive to try to overcome it. And when you're strapped into a car, your head can't move.
Yeah.
You're really strapped in. And I went for my first take on the cannon roll, and I couldn't see my mark because they changed the lighting. And I locked it up. And I'm basically driving with my knee, locking the van up, sliding the wrong way, scaring the hell out of people, trying to hit the disarm switch on the dash while strapped in, so I don't hit the button.
Hit the button, yeah.
And I got all that done, and they came running over. He said, "Okay." I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I just couldn't see the thing." And so I go back up at the other end, and I'm a little jittery. All of a sudden, the Lord came in, and I had a wave of calm that came over me that a lot of people, I tried to explain this to some Christian guys and stuff, and even they were going, yeah, whatever.
Interesting.
And I said, no, a wave of calm came over me, and I just was as quiet and as calm as I could possibly be. And I heard on the radio.
And you attribute that to the Lord just giving you peace.
Yeah, it gave me peace at that moment that I needed it and stuff. He's done that more than once for me. But anyway, I heard on the radio, they're screaming and yelling, said, we got him trapped up in that truck. It's hot. He needs to go. And I couldn't reach the radio because we have it taped on the roll cage. And Jeremy comes up and says, "Lonnie, you okay?" I said, "Yeah, tell him to shut up. I'm fine." I said, "Just tell him to roll. I'm good to go." And up until the vehicle stopped, I was completely, I don't think my pulse rate went up much past about 90.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that. Noon told a very similar story on his interview, and it was a car turnover and a cannon, actually, as well. So yeah, but it went great, and a lot of people don't know, like, you really only get one chance at it. So
pretty much, yeah. But the trick too is there's always going to be a first. And so, but by the time I got to doing that stuff, I've done so many car turnovers and so many crashes. It was and that helps a lot too when you've done a lot. Noon Orsati's done a bunch of them and stuff, but still, there's a point where you get, you got to get edgy. If you're not edgy, there is something wrong. If you're not a little nervous,
right, and
your nerves can work for you to make you think about everything. But again, by the time you get down to it, you've got the button in your hand or whatever, and you wait till you get to that point to hit the button, which is perfect. And BT, Brian Todd, who was one of my rigging guys there that night, we had picked a place where we thought the van was going to land, and it landed within about 6 feet of that mark.
Wow. And
but the bad thing was there was no applause, no nothing after we did it. At least I didn't hear any. There could have been. But they said, "We thought it was going to go over 6 times." I said, if I had gone over 6 times, I'd have gone over this camera into that creek.
Yeah.
And so I said, that's why I slowed down, because I felt that I was going too fast. And on the radio, this is kind of bothering me. They said, "Lonnie, you're slowing down." And I couldn't reach over and say, "I'm doing it on purpose."
Yeah.
I just had to go with it. And as it turned out, the feeling was correct.
Yeah. And
I felt it in the seat of my pants, and I said, this is the right speed. And I was doing about, I think, 48 miles an hour when I hit the button. And I was doing 55, and when I realized I was going too fast, slowed it down to about 50, and then hit the slide and hit the button. So it worked out good. It worked out well, but they didn't like it. And I felt it was about 12:30 in the morning when we finally got done with that shot. And I went back to eat lunch, and I'm feeling about that big, all of it asshole. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, but anyway, the visual effects guy took all the cameras and edited a shot in about 30 minutes and brought it to me at lunch.
Wow.
and showed it to me, showed me the cuts and all that stuff, and said, how can they not be happy with that? And he said, "Oh, trust me, Lonnie, it'll be fine."
Yeah.
And I went back 4 weeks later to cover for Cal Johnson, who was the stunt coordinator on that, to cover for him. Well, all of a sudden, I'm a big hero and everything else. That thing looked great. And I said, where in the hell were you the night I did it? No, it's amazing. The politics
crazy.
in this business nowadays
Politics, yeah.
are ridiculous.
Yeah.
And plus, there's 17 producers instead of 1 or 2.
Right.
And they all want to justify their position.
Mm.
And how do they justify their position? Coming up to stunt coordinator 5 seconds before they do the shots, and can we do this instead? And I got real good at saying no. Absolutely
Well,
not.
yeah. I mean, you have to after a while, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I got real good at it. I literally, whoever sees this, heck, I'm in my 74th year now. I don't give a damn who sees it, but I got to the point where I'd say no just to say it. So no, we're not doing that. So if you want to do it, we got to change the schedule, which would piss off the AD department. Something fierce. Said, okay, well, go ahead and do it your way. Said, okay, I was.
Yeah.
Oh, but
Yeah. Well, I'm sure after being in the business as long as you have, you've learned your little ways to be able to work, to be able to get what they need, because you sometimes know what they need probably more even than they know what they need.
90% of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I'll go back to the car crash on Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
The Duffers, the 2 brothers who were the showrunners,
Mm-hmm.
I told them we'll do 3 car crashes, and we'll be able to reset the cameras quick enough to where you've got a whole bunch of nice editing shots there
Mm-hmm.
to get this thing looking really good. Literally 5 minutes before we start to do this, they decide they want to do it all in one take. And I said, guys, it's not going to work. I'm telling you, it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can we try it anyway? I said, it's not going to work. And finally I said, sure, we'll do it your way.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
It didn't work. Yeah.
Not only that, it ruptured the radiator in my car.
Mm.
And so we reset the camera. I said, if you guys reset the camera real quick, we can get this done again, and I can drive this thing. And I got really irritated. Mm-hmm. So when they called for me to come down, I put my foot in it.
Mm.
And I didn't care about that line anymore. And fluid was coming out of my car and everything, but we got it done, and we did it the way I wanted in 3 crashes.
Mm-hmm.
And they admitted, said, yeah, we got all the cuts now. And I went, yeah, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
But
So
they were good guys, though. They went, they got big real fast, and
Yeah.
a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
in that situation, they know everybody's job,
Mm-hmm.
which they don't.
They think they know everybody's
Yeah.
job. Right.
And it becomes a little irritating when that happens,
Mhm.
but it's part of it.
Yeah.
But as a stunt man, you've been around a while, and I have too. But you realize it's just like being a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
You're always a work in progress.
Mm.
Well, same thing with a stunt guy. If you think you know everything, get out of the business, because you will get hurt or kill somebody.
Yeah.
You're always a work in progress, and you can always learn from that 25-year-old that's just did his first stunt.
Mm.
But he's on a motorcycle and he's real good on it.
Mm.
Well, you can learn from him.
Mm.
And when you keep your mind open to all these young people and help them out, as long as they're willing, a lot of times they're not going to listen to the old guy, and which is typical.
Yeah.
It's nothing unusual about that. So, but most of the time, some of them will listen, but you can also learn from them because they're younger people. They know stuff about, cameras or
Well, yeah. I mean,
IMOs, or not IMOs, but
almost everybody now shoots and edits their own stuff all the time. They got their cameras or just their iPhones or whatever, and they all know how to use editing software. So they're seeing things in new ways, new angles.
it's usually just the stunts themselves, because you can vouch for this. How many people do you know who have done car rolls? Young guys.
Hardly any. Yeah.
They don't do those any. I will give you an example there was a show, I won't mention the show, but a buddy of mine was on it, and they were wanting to do a rehearsal of this car work. And the stunt coordinator said, hey, I need 5 of you because we're going to try to set this car thing up. And they said, they wouldn't do it because we're fighters, we're not drivers.
Yeah.
And
that's what it's
wait
like.
a minute. You're supposed to be able to do, you're a stunt guy. You should be
You're
able to
a
do
stunt guy.
everything.
Right.
And they never did it.
Right.
And you can't, that was then when I started, you had to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
You know, I ended up being a pilot too, so I could use my flight experience if we had an airplane involved in a show, where at least I could speak intelligently at the production meeting about what you need for that.
Right.
And that's happened more than a couple times where they needed that information, and I had it. And so you had to learn everything.
Right.
And you were going to be a jack of all trades, master of none, but that's not a problem either. I mean, you're just the fact you have a smattering of knowledge to be able to help the production company not waste $2 million.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that is so true.
And also to give a damn whether a lot of stunt coordinators won't mention names. They don't care if it's not their money. They don't care.
Right. It's not their money.
But if you let the producers know that you're willing to work in their budget and help them out, they're going to hire you again.
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to expect you to do it again, though, and better this time. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a great point. To be able to be useful in many different aspects of stunts, and not just have your specialty where if you're a fighter and then it comes into the driving sequence, you know, that's not, I'm just going to go over here and hang out, you know, while they do that until they get back to the fight sequence again.
And nowadays it's so, and also there's so many stunt guys.
Yeah.
And a lot of them don't know anything, but they think they do because they've worked one show.
Yep.
Or somebody calls them a stunt, and they call themselves a stunt guy because they rode as a passenger in a car slide. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, I've been that guy too. Yeah. Thankful for those times, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm riding on the back of a motorcycle. Yeah. That's embarrassing.
I did that on Walking Dead, actually. Yeah.
And I had Bob Brubaker riding on the back of a Harley Davidson with me, and he said, "I can't stand this." I said, "Yeah, sorry."
Just get through it, man. We're making money right now, so
yeah.
Just do it.
I did almost kill us that night, though. I was coming around a corner really fast with this big Harley, and I was on the I was scraping the crash bars, and
wow.
I'm surprised I didn't lift the tires off the ground.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, we were getting real close to that.
What was that for?
Man, this is a long time ago. CC Rider, I think they called it.
DC Rider?
Yeah, something like that. It was going to be a TV series. They shot the pilot, and I think that's as far as it went. Because in those days, I would sometimes work 3 pilots in 2 or 3 weeks, and 2 stunts on one, 3 stunts on another, and juggle those, and work a bunch of shows, and most of the time they never made it to series.
Yeah, and there was one flip, a car turnover, a van too, I think it was, and you ended up hitting $1. Was that some kind of bet? What was that?
The director was, I don't know if he was a fan of mine or not. I don't think he was, but everybody decided that they knew where I was going to land. So everybody started taping dollar bills to the road. And so whoever got closest won all the dollar bills.
Won all of them.
And I kept saying, guys, I'm the one with the gas pedal. You do know that, right? And so they had them like everywhere. And anyway, the director came out and said, Lonnie, where's it going to land? I said, right there. And so he put his dollar bill there. And I got finished with the gag, and somebody looked down, and the right front tire was sitting on the dollar bill.
That's amazing.
And that was his dollar bill.
And it was his.
Yeah. And
Nice.
but somebody said that's amazing, just like you just said. No, that was just dumb luck.
Dumb luck.
Yeah, dumb luck.
But the
And,
director
I
doesn't
mean,
need to
there's-
know that.
Well, it's not completely. I mean, I can usually tell within
Right.
a certain amount, 6, 8, 10 feet or something like that, where
Right.
it's going to stop. I did the same thing on the Friday the 13th motorhome roll. I literally I put a piece of tape out and I said this will be where the middle of the motorhome is when it stops, and I was only like something like 8 inches off.
Wow.
And
Nice.
yeah, so that when they righted it, said there's your tape,
Which Friday the 13th was that?
part 6.
Part 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was, I think it was one of the, I don't know this for a fact, I was told it was the first time anybody ever flipped over a motorhome on a movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And Tom Harper was the one who rigged the vehicle for us so it wouldn't come
Cool.
apart. 'Cause the motorhome's got very thin walls and it's going to come
Yeah,
apart.
very.
But he had a triple double hoop roll cage all the way through the motorhome,
Wow.
completely gutted it, and so when it hit, it didn't come apart.
Hmm.
I did get in trouble that night though.
For what?
John Barron, I think Don Barron, that was the producer. He wanted the air conditioner off the top of the motorhome, so we were supposed to pull it off before I did the crash.
Uh-huh.
Well, I had broken my foot just a few weeks before, and I wasn't thinking about any of that stuff because I had to pull my cast off to put my motocross boot on to do the stunt.
Mm.
And so we forgot to do it, and we didn't notice until I did the car crash. I mean, the van crash. I mean,
The
the motorhome crash.
roll.
When it hit, you could see the air conditioner bouncing down the road, and they all went, "Uh-oh."
Uh-oh.
Yeah. But anyway,
Wow.
still went well though.
That's the most important thing.
Well,
Yeah.
I was okay with it. I didn't make very much money that night. I mean, you would think the first time something had ever been done like that, the adjustment would be pretty outstanding, right?
Yeah, you would think.
$1,200.
$1,200. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
$1,200.
Well, I can't imagine. I don't know for sure, but Friday the 13th probably weren't. Most of them probably weren't real big budget movies, though, were they? Yeah, they're trying to do as much as they can with as little as they can. Yeah.
I actually went to L.A. to interview to play Jason on that movie.
Oh, really?
Yes, but I wasn't big enough. And the stunt coordinator, Mike Nomad, was there in the interview.
Huh.
And Mike Nomad liked me. He said, I think you're just not going to be big enough.
Were they meaning tall or just like?
Just tall and big. And
And
I was
big.
pretty big then. I was probably about 220,
Mhm.
but they wanted somebody more like about 6'7", 6'5". They got
Oh,
a
geez.
guy named CJ who was just. There was another stunt guy who was supposed to do it, but he was such a jackass, and I won't tell you his name. And he wanted to
I
do.
agree with that. Anyways.
He wanted to do the motorhome stunt. He said, "Yeah, I'll be able to do it." And Mike wanted me to do it, so we set it up with a pipe ramp, and we built. Dick Cross built the pipe ramp, and it was a giant pipe buried in dirt,
Wow.
and it went outstanding.
Yeah.
It did real well because I
Cool.
think I went 60 feet before I ever hit the ground.
60 feet?
Yeah, before I ever hit the ground. Yeah, it was a pretty good little hit.
That's huge. For
Yeah. Well, and I
motorhome.
didn't have I was just using a grab strap and a lap belt.
Really?
Yeah, I just had a grab strap and I was laying down in the seat.
Wow.
But that's not how a grab strap really works. It should be going the other way for that grab strap to work. There was no way in hell that I could hold on to that grab strap. So by the time I hit, I'm just kind of hanging there. And I had banged my broken foot on the steering column and stuff.
Oh, jeez.
And there's some still shots of me after with a Heineken beer and ice on my foot. That was the time when we could drink beer, so yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Is there any other car stunts that stand out to you that you remember?
Well, I got a bunch of them. The I'll Fly Away car stunt was one that was interesting. It was a red car. It was an old 1940s car. And that one, another one that was, there was he was assistant director, but he was an old stunt guy.
Uh-huh.
And he was telling me how much I didn't know. And more than happy to tell me how much I didn't know.
Sure. Yeah.
And he told me where the car was going to land and all this stuff. And I said, no, it's going to land here. And I stuck a stake in the ground. And the nose of my car was about a foot away from the stake when it stopped. And that was, again, a dumb luck thing. But that was really a neat stunt because I came up with the idea of setting the ramp up against a hill.
Uh-huh.
So I would hit and get up, and I'd sidewind down the hill. And
that's cool.
It worked perfectly.
Yeah.
But the bad thing was the car was so old, it started coming apart. The whole walls of the car and doors and everything came open, which stopped the car. Because if they hadn't, I would not have hit my mark.
Wow.
So luckily the doors came open and stopped me right on my mark.
That's crazy.
Or the other guy would have been right. You know?
Well, the stunt you're describing there sounds a lot like one that I did for noon in Malaysia, because we had to do, it was a turnover, and they were going to use a cannon, but it was hard to get what they wanted in Malaysia, so they ended up using a wheel ramp, and it was right on the edge of this very steep incline. It was all rocks, but they wanted it to, look like a pyroclast from a volcano blows this car, and then it goes over this incline. And they were thinking, like what you said, kind of a spiral sort of thing, but they wanted it to look like that it lands on its wheels facing backwards from the direction it was coming. And that was only my second car turnover I've ever done, and the first one was not too long before that. And so Noon was setting it up, and we were just trying to figure out now, how in the world can we make this car like do what we want to do, land on its wheels in reverse backwards. And I don't know, we tried to think of all these different ways, and finally both of us were just like, I don't know, we're just going to have to do it and see what happens, because there's just no way. So talking about the Lord being with you on stuff, I was nervous, and I was praying about it, of course. And man, I hit the ramp, and it went over, but it didn't do the spiral that we were kind of hoping. It was a Toyota Defender, so it was kind of heavy anyways. It didn't want to just go over. So instead, when it got over, it didn't go this way. It just kind of stayed on these wheels and then started going nose first. But it was so steep, it did like this nose first cartwheel and came right over on its wheels in reverse. And that was pretty amazing, man. Like, both of me and Noon were just like awestruck that it actually happened.
Yeah, we planned that.
Yeah.
We planned it just
and
that
of course, everybody thought we were geniuses, but
yeah, that's when you go, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing when that stuff works out like that.
That is.
Yeah.
And, the funny thing is, I did a car crash. Women aren't going to like this very much, but I did a car crash on Walking Dead, and I was actually doubling a girl because I couldn't find any girl close by. Even at that point, I was talking to some pretty good stunt women, but they didn't want to do the crash because it was a little complicated how I had it set up, because you couldn't even see the ramp. I had it so well hidden. I had a sign, like a road sign, where I knew the base of the ramp was, and I had little pin lights on it that I could see through all the bushes I had placed on it. And that was one of those ones where I was so mad because we hadn't chained, it was a front wheel drive car, and we had not chained the engine down. And which normally my rigger said, I don't think you need to worry about it. It's front wheel drive car. It's pretty well locked in there. Anyway, I did the car turnover, and I wanted to go over twice. Two things worked against me. One, I didn't pay attention to the fact I was going up a slight incline, which will stop a car roll in a heartbeat. It only has to be a few degrees.
Right.
A few degrees up, a few degrees down, and you'll go over an extra flip.
Yeah.
2 degrees up, it'll stop it. And anyway, between that and then the engine, when I came over the first time and hit, the engine popped, and basically I could feel it just stop. The car just stopped, and they wanted it on its side, which I said that's not going to happen. So we'll have to place it there.
Right.
So I was pissed. I was pounding on the steering wheel. My wife was there and said, "What are you mad at?" I said, "I'm yelling and screaming at myself and all this stuff." Everybody, that was one of those ones where everybody was tickled about it, but me. And so we said, "Well, just put it on its side. It's great. It's perfect."
Yeah.
And I'm going, and so when I saw it after it was done, I went, "That looked pretty good."
That was pretty good.
So that was one of those times where I thought it was crap, and everybody
else loved it.
Linda had to told one of the producers or somebody said, "What's he mad about?" I said, "He's always mad because it never goes quite the way he wants." But it worked out good.
Yeah.
For them.
For them, and well, that's really all that matters, right?
It is. They're the one paying the check. Yeah.
Well, there was a couple of really big fire burns on your site, on your reel. A couple that were like full body.
Way,
huh?
By the way, that's redundant.
It's redundant. What?
Fire burns.
You're right.
It's called body burns or burns. Come on, get it right.
A couple of big burns.
A lot of people started calling fire burns, said, as opposed to acid burns.
What other kind of burn? Right?
Anyway.
Well, I always thought another was like, well, do you horseback ride? I'm like, well, what other part of the horse am I going to ride?
Yeah.
Why do we have to put the horse back in there, right?
Yeah. It's called horsemanship.
I don't.
Or equestrian.
Don't horse
ability.
head ride.
Yeah.
Horse ass ride.
Yeah. But I had quite a few burns. As I told you, my website really only has about a half to 2/3 of the stuff I've done. I don't have tapes of all the car crashes and stuff I've done. Otherwise, it's already way long, so it'd be real long. Any particular burn you're thinking of?
Well, the one I remember thinking of, it was a full burn, like feet to head, and completely engulfed. And
was I inside?
Inside, I believe you were inside.
Okay, that was a live show I did at a place called. It was a cowboy bar.
A cowboy bar.
And we were just putting on a show for somebody, and I think that's the one where I had. If you look at it closely, it is a good burn. And matter of fact, we had the fire marshal there, and the ceiling was about 13 feet high, and the flames were rolling off the ceiling.
Wow.
And,
yeah, I remember like the flames looked like they were a good 6 feet over your head. Probably.
Yeah, they were rolling pretty well. And but if you'll notice, you'll see me do this. Well, I had an Oriental fan in my hand. So when they set me on fire, I took the fan and opened it up and did like this.
Oh, cool.
And it caught on fire while I was doing it. And then I turned around and turned back around, and then that's when I did that, and then they put me out.
I bet that looked great.
And I couldn't lay down to be put out because it was a wood floor.
Oh.
And we had tarps down, but I could not lay down to do it, so they had to put me out vertical, which means I have to rotate.
And
And
step around.
the bad thing about rubber cement is if you don't use CO2, you'll reignite. If you don't lay down and you try to rotate to be put out, you've got to rotate fast enough, because if you don't, when you turn back around, you'll reignite the front.
Wow.
And that happened to me more than once.
Wow.
Yeah, and so you're holding your breath. It was.
Yeah, because you got to hold your breath through the fire burn
Yeah, because you
and
want
the
to be
CO2.
able to go down to the ground to be.
What's
put
that?
You want to be able to go down to the ground to be put out.
Yes.
And because once you hit the ground, you're putting the front side out. Now all you got
Right.
to do is put the back side out or the way around.
Much easier, much
But
simpler.
when you're standing up, it's not the best way to be put out.
Yeah.
But live and learn, or die and learn.
You hope you can live and learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this was for a promotional too, but you did this high fall off a cherry picker.
Oh, that was just a fun day.
On fire.
That was just for
That
fun.
was just a fun day.
That was just a fun day. That one, that was 7 stories.
7 stories.
Yeah,
Wow.
but I listened to somebody from L.A. I never did it again. they said, use this flammable for that. Well, I said, well, I better use some rubber cement too.
Uh-huh.
So I went up, and it was funny. I had two people in the bucket with me, and I kept going, am I on fire? I said, you're on fire. Go, damn it.
I remember I was watching a video, and I'm like, he's on fire, but he's not doing anything. He's kind of looking around.
Because I couldn't tell I was on fire because I used the stuff they had recommended, but I had burned hide because I got dressed and fueled at the bottom and then raised me up. Because we couldn't fuel me up there because I didn't want to hurt the guys that were up there with me.
Right.
And because they had to light me.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't tell whether I was on or not. And so finally I said, you're on. And I left, but I went out on the way down.
Yeah.
The only thing that stayed lit was the rubber cement.
Mm.
Lighted, excuse me, not lit. No such word, I guess. Anyway, and when I hit, I burst back into flame.
Oh, really?
So, but I had a burn tarp on my airbag, and so they just came in and put me out again. But and then I did a 9-story fall that day. I did about, well, not that day, but my first day I had the bag, I did about 15 or 20 falls that day. And went up to 90 feet with a truck.
That's big.
I think the bucket went up to 95 or 98 feet, and we took it up almost all the way. And so that's the highest I've ever been, and that was just that was just playing. We were just having fun.
Yeah.
And
there's not very many guys who've done a 95-foot high fall.
Well, somebody said, "Well, it wasn't 90 feet because you had the airbag." So, well, I'm not living on top of the airbag. I'm still going to the ground eventually.
Yeah.
So it was 90 feet.
Yeah. No, it's from the ground to it. Yeah. You know. Yeah.
But that airbag, Andy Martin. Now I gave that to him. And
what is that airbag like rated for? Do you know, like how
100
high?
feet.
How?
100 feet.
100 feet.
Yeah.
So you're only 5 feet under the maximum.
Well, no, that's what they rated at. You can go 200 into it.
Oh, you can? Okay.
And possibly live. But in other words,
they only guarantee
what they're doing, they're rating it at half of what they think it will do. But at 200 feet, you'd probably die. You'd probably go through it. And it had a safety bag on the inside, so if you went through the top layer, you'd hit the bottom layer.
Wow.
But it's...
what's the dimensions of that thing?
It was like... Scurlock, who built it for me in Louisiana, I had him add a few feet to the width and length. I think it was something like 18 by 23 or something like that, or 16 by 23. And from 90 feet, it looks pretty small.
I was going to say, it sounds huge, but from up that high...
Yeah, it's very small when you look down at it.
Yeah.
And it's when you see it on the video, when you see me, and you can actually hear me starting to whistle before I hit it. And because it's 32 feet per second squared, and that happens real quick.
Yeah, right. And I mean, I wasn't any great physics genius, but there's also the calculation of the higher you get, every little movement or push off that you do from the top, how that gets expanded by the time you get to your mark.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that say you just kind of fold up when you go, but that doesn't work for the shot a lot of times. Because you get a shot or something like that, and you have to make a move.
Right.
So you have to figure too that when you do, you're going to push with your toes just a little bit, and because you don't want to turn over immediately. You want to be falling like that, and then
kind of opened out.
And if you've ever seen somebody who dies, a real fall, it's a slow turn. And unless they hit something, there was one I saw that jumped out of a burning building, caught his foot, and he was spread out and was spinning incredibly fast till he hit the ground. But that wouldn't be a very good idea doing a fall like that. But what you're trying to do, you've got a face off, as you know, where you come off and you fall face down all the time and do a cat turn at the bottom.
Right.
But that cat turn can't be used in the shot. So you're losing some feet. But if you do a nice slow even fall to where by the time you get down it still looks good, and then you're in a dead ant position with your feet and legs up and land kind of on your back and shoulders, kind of like that, then they can use it almost all the way to the bag and look real. Then it's just that's a header as opposed to a face off.
Is it right? Yeah.
And but Bobby Brown's the best if you've ever seen
Bobby Brown, he did stuff that was mind-boggling.
That boy's got some genes that
He's part cat or something.
Yeah, and what a nice guy he is too.
I've never met him in person. I don't think. I'd want to.
We helped him with a job here on a thing called 187 Detroit or something like that, and he was doing a little short descender fall. Had his buddy there, and it was actually just using a gold tail, and he did that, and really nice guy, and he didn't hesitate to show us what he was doing, how he was doing this and all that. And I said, "Well, thanks, Bobby.
Yeah.
I'm not ever going to use that anyway, but thanks."
Well, thanks.
But
yeah, he was one of the guys I idolized coming up in the business. Like when I first got, the first time I went out to L.A. and was going to go do a live show over in Taiwan. So we were training and stuff, and a lot of the guys that did that show came from a diving background, like high diving, so that was my introduction. They kind of showed me some video, reels and stuff of Bobby Brown and the things that he did, and I was just.
Did you ever see that fall that he did for Red Bull it was 27 stories?
On fire.
I don't know if he was on fire or not. I think I don't think he was on fire, but he did one. It might have been higher than that, but it wasn't. He just didn't come out. He did a whole bunch of stuff on the way down.
That's the thing. He never just did a header, a face-off. I mean,
he was, and I think his son is real good too, right?
Good question. I don't know for sure.
A good faller too. I'm not sure.
Maybe it would make sense.
I think he is, but Bobby, he was really nice guy.
Yeah.
And,
he really changed the whole. Well, he basically took the high falls, I feel like, to the max of what they could be.
Yeah, who else was a real good guy was, as a matter of fact, they had talked to him about doing that cannon roll that I did, was Corey Eubanks.
Corey Eubanks was a good faller?
No, I'm talking about just being a good guy.
Oh, just being a good guy.
And he didn't mind telling you that. So he worked on Identity Thief. He did the van roll on Identity Thief.
Yeah.
And just a real good gentleman, and he worked all the time.
Yeah,
he's probably done
a lot.
He's probably done 200 or 300 cannon rolls in his career.
He's probably done more than about anybody, I would think.
Yeah. He was just talking about good guys. He was a very pleasant individual to work with.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about it before, but when we were saying that in stunts, it's not a matter of if you're going to get hurt, but when. What are some injuries that you had to come across through the years that you dealt with?
Somebody asked me one time if I ever gotten hurt, and so I went through my litany of 30. I used to say 31 fractures. Well, I found out because of my my illness I've got now that I had some PET scans, and they said, "Well, when did you break your pelvic?" And I went, "Excuse me?" Said, "Yeah, it's been some time ago. It's healed, but you had a crack in your pelvic." And I went, I bet you I know exactly when that was. And it was on heat of the night when I did a saddle fall, and I had not tied my step down. And when I came off, I hip pointed and the ground was not dug up. It was hard as a brick. And I think that's when I broke my pelvic rib, because I remember getting up. My wife was there, and I'm going, "Boy, I hope they got that, because I'm not sure I can do it again, because I'm really hurting." And luckily, praise the Lord again, I nailed the mark. It was good, and because it was a TV show, they got what they wanted, so they moved on. It had been a feature film. I'd done it 5 more times,
right?
But luckily, I didn't.
They're happy with it. We got to move.
But I'm pretty damn sure that's where one of my breaks was. But,
so that was. I just wanted to explain real quick what a saddle fall is.
Well, there's horse falls and saddle falls, and people sometimes a horse fall is when the horse goes with you. And those are specially trained stunt horses. A saddle fall is when you come off the horse at whatever speed the shot calls for and come off. And there's different ways. Everybody falls different. Some people get shot and you'll go backwards and spin out of the saddle and land face down. and that's normal way, because usually if you're in a Western shot, you're going to be shot in the chest, which is where I was shot in this particular scene, so that's how I came off.
Right.
But you have steps, which are little pieces of iron that you put on your cinch. Matter of fact, I think I gave you a couple.
You did. Yeah, you gave me 2
and
sets.
so you use those to put your foot out of the stirrup so you don't get caught in the stirrup.
Yep.
And then use that. Well, I didn't tie my angle iron to the cinch. So when I pushed, it just went. And so all of a sudden, I kind of slipped and fell. I came out of the saddle okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't hit the way I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's a saddle fall is just coming out of the saddle. A horse fall is where you take a well-trained horse, and usually a goofy footer goes to the right, I think, and a normal horse you pull on the right rein, bend his head back, and that's his trigger to go.
Okay.
And but those are the ones that can hurt you, especially if you got a horse that really likes it.
That really likes it?
Likes falling.
There are horses that like it.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. There was one horse called Twister, which Danny Costa usually rode him. He was, I think he belonged to Rudy Ugland, who was a wrangler. And Twister, when he went, Twister didn't just fall over. He would jump up in the air and spin.
Thus his name.
And if you were under, Twister, if you were under him when he fell, then Rudy Ugland's daughter, if I'm not mistaken about it, I could be, but his daughter got a broken leg. Danny Costa got hurt on him a couple times.
Wow.
And but Danny did a lot of horse falls, and he got hurt quite a bit and stuff, but he was kind of like Corey Eubanks. He was known for cannon rolls, and Danny was known for doing a horse fall.
For horse falls.
And he did some. There was one picture I used to have on my refrigerator over here of him doing one, and I don't know where he landed because I saw nothing but rocks. And I talked to him about it when he was here on a show. And he said, you can't see it, but there's a nice soft place where I landed with the horse. But it doesn't. I said, yeah, it looks like you got nothing but rocks there. I don't think AHA really would have liked that very much. So,
have you gotten to do a horse fall?
No, never. They're
very rare.
I had a
very
good.
Rare.
Well, but usually the people who own the horse, they're going to be the ones who fall it.
Right.
You're going to hire the horse and him. And Doug Sloan, who I hired quite a few times, he had Diablo, or D we call him, and he was a black fallen horse. And he was great. He was a good critter, but Doug always fell him. Because, I mean, Doug loved that horse. And so
sure.
There was no reason I couldn't dress. Because I can put, you're 6 feet tall, I can put somebody 5 feet tall on the back of a horse doing it, and you'll never know the difference. There's no really good frame of reference there.
Yeah.
And unless, you're 300 pounds and he's 150,
right.
But Doug I used a lot, and Dee died a number of years ago, but had Whiskey, and I think Whiskey was a goofy footer. I think he went to the right, so he pulled on, yeah. And I'm not sure that's correct. I don't know which side is goofy footer, but I'm pretty sure it's going right is a goofy footer. So.
Yeah, that's surfing anyways.
Yeah, it's a surfing term, goofy footer, yeah.
Yeah, and I saw the one saddle fall on your reel. I do remember that one. I don't remember what it was for.
The one where I was talking to the horse most of the time? It was an English saddle?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one I got hurt on. That's the one I think I broke my hip on.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
But you'll see me hit, and then you see the camera right there.
Yes.
Well, I landed. I landed. They moved the camera in later, but I landed exactly where they wanted me to land. They just moved the camera in and did my last little thing.
Yeah.
But boy, I tell you what, that was one. And I didn't do that many saddle falls in my career. Yeah, wasn't a lot of calling for. And matter of fact, the one I was supposed to do on North and South, I was an actor. Well, the stunt coordinator, I thought because he knew I was a stunt guy, I had dialogue and all this stuff. I figured I was going to do the saddle fall as well as the dialogue. I had a stunt double. And I'm going.
You're like, yeah.
And I said, why'd you give me a stunt? I got a stunt double. I can do my own saddle.
Yeah.
I said, and these British said, Lonnie, at least this time you'll be able to walk home upright for a change. And I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who doubled me. I worked with him again, I think, on Patriot, but real good guy. His last name was it Hawk? H-O-C-K, I think.
Okay.
John Hawk. I think that's
John
John
Hawk.
Hawk. He stunt doubled me on that.
Huh.
And it was one of the worst type of saddle falls where you're stopped and you're coming off the horse.
That is the worst, man.
That hurts when you do those things. I'd rather be full gallop doing a saddle fall than that. But,
Yeah.
But anyway, I never did that many.
Yeah. Like you said, they're not called for that often.
And
I
usually
mean,
when
I've got to do 3, and that's kind of a lot for nowadays. Like,
yeah, and the 3's a lot.
it's not.
But I don't think I did that. I don't think I did any more than that in my whole career because I was called to do a lot of horse work. But it's usually just riding or
Just
something
riding.
like that, and
Yeah.
I did all my own riding and Queen. Because I played a character in Queen, 2 different characters, and I was riding, and Dave Cass knew I could ride, so he actually put me on some pretty good critters on that show. I had a lot of fun on that show. But,
Queen is the name of the show?
Queen.
Queen, okay.
Yeah, Halle Berry was the lead. It was one of her first shows.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
I have a pretty big acting part in it, too, as
Yeah.
well as doing the riding and stuff. Had a lot of fun on that show.
Nice.
And,
I remember you telling me once when you did a car hit, you got knocked in the head pretty good, I think. Doing a car hit?
the car hit, I think you're talking about, is the one I did on Free Jack. Is that the
I
one
think
you
so,
said?
yeah.
Yeah. Mickey Gilbert was the coordinator, and it was the second unit. And if you've ever seen the movie, there's a scene where Emilio Estevez is driving a wine truck, and the top of it gets taken off, and the dune buggies, the bad guys in the dune buggy, knock him up on he knocks the dune buggy up on a side street, which actually is down at Spring Street MARTA station.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we have the people carriers there, and I'm supposed to come out of people carrier at a run trying to get away from all the gunfire and stuff, and I get hit by the dune buggy. And the problem was the dune buggy is an open cage vehicle, so Mickey Gilbert put 3/4-inch piece of plexiglass over that so they could actually shoot through the plexiglass and see me hit.
Oh, wow.
And
That's cool.
but I have a big green overcoat on, and that was basically like putting a oil on me because it made me very slippery on that plexiglass. And Mickey even told me, he said, Lonnie, I don't know what's going to happen on this thing, but I think it's going to squirt you up in the air pretty quick. And he was absolutely correct, because it was one of those days where I'm going, I'm going to attack this thing. I'm going to come out at a dead run and attack this thing. Well, I did. And that's the last thing I remember. Because I made the turn right as the dune buggy hit me. And the plexiglass caved in so much that I hit the back of my head on the roll cage, knocked me out.
Wow.
Long enough, when I got up in the air, my feet almost touched the ceiling in the MARTA station, which was about 13 or 14 feet high.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was vertical. And I remember seeing the dune buggy go away. And the next thing I remember is a guy with a mustache like yours velcroing my head to a backboard. That's all I remember for almost 4 hours. They said I was awake, and I was talking and answering questions. My wife meets me at Piedmont Hospital. She's sitting down there talking to me, and all of a sudden, I wake up. I've been answering questions, but I was unaware of any of it. All of a sudden, I wake up, and I remember going, uh-oh, I guess that didn't go very well. And she looks at me and said, what are you talking about? I said, and I think I asked her where I was. I said, you're in Piedmont Hospital. You've been talking to me all this time. I said,
wow.
I don't remember any of it.
That
and it was 4 hours.
Amazing.
And but I've had 10 concussions, 6 major ones. And, but that, as we have discussed, that explains a lot.
That explains a lot. What was a couple of the other ones you remember?
One was a movie called here we go, Mutants. And I'm actually on top of a car. Tom Harper's driving. He hits a wheel ramp, gets up on two wheels. I come off the top of the car, hit the pavement, and go backwards through a window. And I wanted to do it in cuts because I was actually the coordinator. Bud Cardis had been the original coordinator, became the director. And he decided he wanted it in one shot. And I wanted it in two because I wanted to come off the car, go into boxes, cut to the inside, and see me come flying through the window because they had it on charges.
Right.
But he wanted it in one. And I came off the car, jammed my leg up pretty good, but I made it through the window. And I remember hearing the whir of the IMO. My head landed right next to it. Then I don't remember anything else until my wife is talking to me while I was taking my pads off in the back room. That was when I woke up and going, okay. So, and
Wow.
what was the other one? Oh, yeah. Remember the Titans, the car crash. Andy Martin hits me with about 8,000 pounds of truck and about 2 inches behind me on the roll cage. That's where he's supposed to hit me. We had a steel bumper on it. And
Jeez,
I don't know if I was knocked out completely, but I don't remember cussing the director out like they say I did.
Cussing the director out.
Yeah, they came over, and he came over to congratulate me on the stunt. And I said, I told you that damn thing wasn't going to work right. You should have rolled the car. That's what I wanted to do. And they said I was yelling and screaming at him, and he walked away, and I don't remember doing it.
Wow, that's
Do not
funny.
remember doing it.
Huh.
And we didn't. None of the stunt people got credit on that movie.
Are you serious?
We got our residuals, but we didn't. Nobody
No
got credit
credits?
on it.
Wow.
I don't even think I got stunt coordinator credit on it. I don't think.
And that was Remember the Titans?
Remember the Titans, yeah. And I think it was because I might have yelled at the director.
They're funny like that, aren't they?
Well, that was a stunt that shouldn't have happened because the true story was that he flipped the car over down a hill on the ice. And I told Tom Luce, who was the producer who I worked with a bunch, said, Tom, I can set something up right here in the square in Covington, and it might be a little bit of a lighting problem. We can get it done. I can do it right here, do the same thing, but flip the car over here and not damage anything, but make the shot you want.
Yeah.
And they wanted the T-bone on the driver's side, and I did not want to do that because I knew it was going to hurt. And it was an eat the rat moment. So, but luckily Andy was driving because he nailed it.
Yeah. Andy's great.
Yeah, he did real good.
Yeah.
But I guess I should tell the part where I had a helmet on. That's one of the few times, and I don't normally wear a helmet in car crashes like that. But if it's in T-bone, you can, So I had, but my helmet was turned completely around on my head, and I couldn't see. And they said they came up to me, and I'm saying, I can't see. See, your helmet's on sideways. Oh boy, I'm glad nobody had that one on tape.
Yeah.
Well, they do now.
That's, wow, how does that happen, man? That's got to be a
It was a
big hit.
the car. If you ever see it, the car almost left the ground when it rotated.
Wow.
It was a good hit.
Shoosh.
Yeah, but it was 65 Camaro, I think, or 67 or something like that. And it would be worth a fortune.
Of course, it's always one like that. Yeah.
Oh, it was a good car.
Yeah.
It was a good car.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to just kind of ask, I mean, we are philosophical Fall Guy, by the way, So, this business is...
My time to talk about the Lord?
Huh?
My time to talk about the Lord? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. This is it.
I already had, but...
You have already. But this business is it's tough on families. It's tough on marriages. It's tough on relationships. And it's tough on your spiritual life, your personal life. A lot of people come out of it with addictions and all these different things, broken marriages and families. How did you kind of navigate all that kind of stuff?
Well, I always say this to people, and I've said it to you, and it's Proverbs 3:5. Don't lean on your own understanding. Trust in the Lord only, and He'll make your trust in Him completely, and put Him first in everything. He'll make your crooked path straight. And
You know what? That is the Bible verse, the first Bible verse that my dad made me memorize.
yeah, and it's the most important one because
Mm-hmm.
atheists don't like the idea of the fact that God controls every aspect of your life. He knows everything you're going to do. Psalms 139 talks about the fact that He knows everything you're going to say, everything you're going to do, everything you've done. He's omnipresent. He's everywhere at all times. He knows what you're going to do, what you're going to say. He made you who you are. And as a Christian, you keep trying to change who you are to be somebody better, which is fine. You want to be more Christ-like. And like we said a little while ago, just like a stuntman, as a Christian, you're a work in progress. And if you ever hear somebody say they're perfect and say, well, if you're perfect, then that means that Christ died for no reason. Well, you're not going to be perfect. You're going to fight all the way through it. You're going to sin. It says so. We all sin and fall short of glory of God. That's Romans 3:23.
Yeah.
And you just have to remember that, you're fighting all the way through all this stuff. And I don't know if you wanted me to bring this up or not, but I'm dealing with stage 4 cancer right now. And I've been dealing with it for 1 year and 10 months. And without the Lord, I don't know how people could do it without Him. And people said, well, is He mad at you or something? I said, no, He just gave me a hobby and gave me a reason to trust Him more. That's what it's about. And it's been a tough thing. I think I showed you the picture of where they cut me open just 3 months ago. And cut me from my belly button up to my chest and laid me back like a fish. And
And that was, you can explain what they were doing for that procedure?
well, that was to cut part of my colon out. That I was going to make a belt buckle out of it, but it would have been a crappy belt buckle. Anyway, so we didn't do
Lonnie.
that. Anyway. And it made my poop shorter, though. But anyway, it's been a chance. I've got colon, liver, and lung cancer, and I got my CEA down to 3, which is normal. CEA is, I can't remember the scientific. It's a carcinogens, or however you pronounce that, the cancer that's in your system, and normal is 0.0 to 5.0. Well, in the beginning of it, I was 192.7.
Wow.
So I was way up there. But after half a year, it went down to 3. I was normal.
Wow.
But now it started coming back again. And so I just started Tuesday on another chemo. And I didn't want to do it, but I was told I was going to. And praise the Lord, there's something about me that I do exactly the opposite of everything they say I'm going to do. They said I was going to have diarrhea, I was going to throw up, I was going to do this and this and this. I did exactly the opposite of every one of those things. And so I didn't have any of the problems that I had from the hardest stuff was called oxaliplatin, which is a platinum that goes in your system. That stuff was brutal. That was really difficult. But I'm on 3 things right now: Xeloda, Avastin, and this new one. I can't even pronounce it. And but it's been I don't usually like to use, I don't use the word philosophical, because I just believe that I read the Bible 2 or 3 times a day, and there is nothing that you go through in your life that there's not an answer for in that book. And people who don't believe in it, I feel sorry for them. But the funny thing is, the Lord believes in them. All of us, atheists, whatever, we're all His children. He wants us to do the best we can.
Amen. Yeah.
But we're gonna fail. And there was a thing Yoda said to Luke Skywalker. Said the best teacher in the world is failure, because without failure there is no success. And so you need all of that stuff. And I think it's people say, well, I said, Lord just gave me a hobby, and it's been a heck of a hobby, that's for dang sure. And I think it's created a job for me of letting people know, hey, it's difficult, but it's not. it's not and it's not terrible, and they've given me a certain amount of time, but all my doctors are Christians, and they say the same thing. They said, yeah, but he's got the final say,
Yeah.
and not you. And they're all that way. They're good people and stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
I think my job is to just let people know, hey, it's not that, it's hard. It would be stupid of me to say that's kind of like the guy said, I'll do anything.
Yeah, right.
No, it's not an easy trip, and it hasn't been easy. But I got a lot of people praying for me all the time, and it's I won't say it's been fun, but sometimes it is going, I wonder what's going to happen today. And what happens is sometimes I'll have energy to do everything, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and I just won't have any energy at all. But here lately it's been, I don't know if I've gotten used to the process or not, but and I've told you I'd never quit working out. There was only a period for 12 weeks with this incision where I couldn't work out because it's my core. I can burst that open. That would be a bad thing. And but even when I had my hip replacement, and I have a quadricep tendon rupture, is one of the worst things you can have. I was back in the gym in 12 days after the hip replacement, and in I think about 10 weeks after my quadricep tendon rupture, on crutches, going in and working out the best I can. I said, can I do that? And the doctor said, as long as you don't use that leg, knock yourself out. So I tried. But the Lord is, and has always been. My dad was the one who baptized me in the St. John's River in Jacksonville, Florida when I was 17 years old, yeah.
Was your dad a pastor, or was
no? He's just a good Christian. He worked for the Church of Christ, going around and helping other churches, because he had 8th grade education, but had more common sense than any 20 people he ever met. He was a Marine. He was a beachhead at Bougainville in the Pacific, and once a Marine, always a Marine. And but very, very good man. And I mean, my mom and dad divorced.
He baptized you when you were 17, you said?
Yep. So on August 1st of when I was 17, that would be 1969. And right after they landed on the moon, that's right. So,
oh, yeah. Or as some people say, allegedly landed.
Allegedly, yeah. Conspiracy theorists. Yeah. So Dad said, you know what? You need to really get a life.
I agree. I agree.
It's and my job is like I was getting ready to say. My job has just been to make sure that people understand that if you put him in the equation of your life, you're never going to fail. And when I say never fail, you're going to fail. You're going to fall. You're going to stumble. And he's going to help you back up again. But you're never going to fail in what you do, what you attempt, all that stuff. Yeah, it's going to be hard, but it's just like that stunt that doesn't go right, and yet all of a sudden in editing, they make it look really good. Well, there's nothing that you do. There's nothing that you do that God can't turn into a wonderful gift. As it says in Romans 8:28, all things work for good for those who love the Lord. In other words, he takes this mistake and this mistake and this good thing and this good thing, lumps it all together and turns it into a great thing.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And
we can't even...
And there's a scripture, Psalms 27:13 and 14, which is a great one. It says, I'm convinced that I'll see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. But the next verse is the one you really, as a stuntman, you need to remember this one. Be patient. Be strong, courageous. And it says take heart. Take heart to me means be cheerful. Smile about it. Laugh about it. But be patient, because he'll help you. All you got to do is let him. And also just know that he's going to do that for you. And it makes life easy. And what people don't understand, he orchestrates every one of your steps. Everything about you is, in other words, you don't know the future. He does. You don't even know what your next step is going to be. That you're going to crash or fall or whatever. You have no idea. He does. But he knows what you're going to say and everything. So it's nice to know. It's actually very liberating to know that he's got you. You know.
It is.
Yeah. I'm 16:8. I'm always talking to the Lord. He's got me by my right hand. I will not be shaken. So it's that's one of those things where, and that's so Nahum 1:7 is a great scripture. It says, God is good. He's a great place to go when you're in trouble, because he never forsakes those who seek him. And that's a really good one.
And is it, which one is that again?
It's called Nahum. It's a book in the Bible.
Nahum, okay.
Nahum, and it's 1:7. It's a great scripture. It said, the Lord is good. He's a great place to go when you're in trouble. Because actually it says, he cares for those who trust him. That's what, I was quoting another scripture there. So I'm getting old to get them confused. But,
you've done pretty good. I mean, me being a pastor's kid, I learned so many verses through the years, and I have to admit I haven't been keeping them, recalling them, much recently. So
well, if people remember that scriptures are prayers, and when you recite a scripture, it's like praying, because it's the Word of God, and it's really good to keep them in mind, and for no other reason. You're going to have a rough time. You're going to be in traffic yelling and screaming at somebody, and you need to calm down or whatever. It's good to have the scriptures there to recite to yourself and stuff. But
right.
Faith is a real strange thing, because faith is something you work on and build it, but it's a gift from God. Faith is given to you. And it says in one of the verses in Romans, it talks about, be careful in the estimate of yourself according to the faith God gave you. Because not everybody gets the same type of faith, the same amount of faith and all that stuff. At least that's how I read that scripture. And some people have faith to take them a certain direction. Other people have a faith to take them to be a pastor, to be David Jeremiah or my dad or something. Well, I'm not there.
That is very interesting. I love the way that you look at that and the way you see that, because faith is something that, well, some people think that you either got it or you don't got it. And I tend to agree with you. I feel that God's given everybody some.
It says it quite clearly.
Yeah.
That according to the faith God has given you, and then further along it says, if you are chosen, if you are good at prophesizing, or you're good at preaching, or you're good at giving, or good at this, do it like you're doing it for the Lord. Do it, all that. And everybody's different. Nobody, imagine if everybody had exactly the same faith, and all of a sudden you had 350 million preachers. That'd be kind of interesting.
It wouldn't make any sense.
Everybody
be trying
one
to
dang
scream.
Big church. And you'd always be preaching. Always be preaching to the choir. So,
right.
And like I talk, people ask me, well, do you go to the church all the time? I said, no, actually I sit here on Sunday morning out on the front deck with a cup of coffee listening to David Jeremiah, Charles Stanley, and Joel Osteen, and listening to those guys.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And listening to them every Sunday morning. And David Jeremiah gives you some good, and Charles Stanley makes you feel like you're going to go to hell no matter what you do. And
that's a real balance, I guess.
Joel Osteen is the other way around. He's a very, very uplifting and stuff. I listen to him laugh. That's like getting dessert, after a bad meal or something. But
that's all.
Yeah, it's a wonderful way to be. I wish people could understand that. And before the cancer and everything, I was kind of always like this. But I remember Joey Picaro and I were talking about Christ on the Corner when we were working on that movie Thunder Force, downtown Atlanta. Yeah. And we were sitting there talking about the Lord, and there was a wardrobe lady sitting right there, and she got huffy, and she got her chair and just left.
Really?
Yeah, while we were talking about the Lord, and I looked at Joy and whatever.
Whatever.
Let her go. Not a very Christian. Yeah, get your butt out of here. I don't care. Yeah, but it's
all the things to get offended about.
Yeah, it's just, but it goes back the third time now. It goes back to the thing I said. You're always going to be a work in progress for the Lord, and sometimes you're going to do great. Sometimes you are going to suck. You are just not. You're going to go, damn, I wish I hadn't said that. Damn, I wish I hadn't done that. And, well, yeah, but you did. So you just ask the Lord for forgiveness. Very first time when you get on your knees at night and pray, say, Lord, forgive me for this day. I'm not going to go through everything by I'm not going to say everything. You already know
It'll
that.
take it all night.
Yeah, I don't have that much time on my bad knees.
Well, what's hard sometimes is forgiving yourself, I think.
I can't do it. I have never been.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, and Paul says it. I strain towards what's ahead and forget what's behind. And I can't do that. I've talked to so many, like Andy Martin's a good Christian. And one time I said, I can't forget all the things I've done. I've done so many crappy things in my life. It's not amazing. I can't tell you the good thing. I can tell you some good things I've done.
But it's hard.
But I don't focus on it. I focus on and the Lord keeps slapping me in the back of the head. Get over it, dude.
Yeah.
And I just can't. It's so hard for me to do. And I think it's the type of personality I have that made me a coordinator and made me investigate myself and everything I do so I do it better. So I think even though I do that to myself, I still think that's a gift from God. You know, I pick on myself, and the consequence of that is it keeps me from picking on others. And but it also makes me realize that don't be judgmental. I'm judgmental about myself. I try not to be judgmental about other people because that's not my job. Matthew 7:1, don't judge lest you be judged.
Just to be judged, yeah.
Get the board out of your eye before you talk about the splinter in your brother's eye.
Yeah.
And otherwise you're a hypocrite. And everybody does that. So
You're right.
doesn't matter who you are. But as a Christian, the nice thing about it, being a Christian, you realize what an asshole you are. You said a lot of people they don't realize that.
Yeah.
And
well, you're supposed to. I don't know. There's some Christians I don't think they've got that figured out yet. But
yeah. But you don't realize that you're consigned to sin.
yeah.
Again, I'll go back to the point that if you could go through life and never sin, then Jesus died for absolutely no reason. And this past Sunday, him rising from the dead on the third day, otherwise he's just a martyr. But when he rose on the third day, that was the time. That's why that's the most important day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
It all basically rests on that day. If it didn't happen,
it is that day. I mean, it is. It
is just another philosophy.
But it's he's just another really great martyr. But
yeah.
when people say that too, I think you're forgetting about all the many miracles he did. When they make that statement, they forget about the miracles. And if you bring the miracles back in there, he's not just another good guy.
And raising that other dude from the dead.
Yeah, I think that might have separated him just from the other good guys.
Right there, it's kind of
I'm pretty sure.
It's a high bar right
I'm
there.
pretty sure,
yeah. Yeah. Common storms by talking to him. Yeah, that's pretty high up there on the.
Yeah, ye of little faith, and we all are of little faith, and and God made us all. So read all of Psalms 139. It's really good that it tells you who you are, what you are, and why you are, and it's really really impressive. And
Psalms what?
Psalms 139.
139.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Psalms 1 and Psalms 103 is good too, but I got them underlined in all my Bibles and stuff. But it's like Psalms 23, which a lot of people have that memorized, but it's meant something to me more than normal. It says, "Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want." A lot of people don't understand what that means. I shall not want. What it means is, you've given me everything. I don't want anything. I don't need anything. I got it all. You've already given it to me all. And he said, and the neat thing about the next line is, he makes you lie down in green pastures. He doesn't let you. He makes your ass lie down in green pastures.
Get down there and rest.
Exactly. You're a damn sheep. Sit down and he leads you beside still waters. He restores your soul. And this one, even though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, well, I've been walking through it, but I see the handholds going up the side of the valley there. I've been seeing those ever since this happened, and so I will not be shaken. I will not fear, and because the Lord is with me. Well, you're going to die at some point.
Yeah.
But
right.
Wouldn't it be better just to have him knowing that he's sitting there, hitting you in the back of the head and saying, "Move on," and walking with you. He's on either side of you, in front, behind you, and it's so much better to have that than not have anything. And I think a lot of people, they don't like it because they don't want the responsibility. And the funny thing is, there isn't any responsibility. It's less. You're just trusting in Him. And said,
Right.
what a great, you know, He said, you know.
Well, I think besides the fact that there are just other cultures and parts of the world with different traditions, and, people that come up in Japan, for example, they may not hear about the Lord the same way you and I do. They don't get to hear about it or study it the same way or see it the same way. But as far as like people just like not wanting to have anything to do with God, I think has more to do with probably a lot of the people that have claimed to represent God throughout the years, and how they have misrepresented
Right.
and done so much damage in the name of God.
Well, the problem with that whole thing is wrong voices, wrong choices.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people, they will focus on the bad guys and forget about the good guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're listening to the wrong voices, you make the wrong choices.
Mm-hmm.
It's like who you hang out with. I mean, when you see a girl that looks like she fell face first into a tackle box, I said, who you hanging out with? I said, well, is that one on your nose? Is that a good bass lure? Which one is that? You don't, it's like, I don't understand all that stuff. I'm an old guy. I don't get it. But, but it's wrong voices, wrong choices. It really is. That's how you can go through life.
That goes all the way to in your head too.
Yep.
You listen to the wrong voice in your head.
Yeah, that's why you think I said, because I'm listening to the voice that says, hey, you suck. And but I know
that's
better.
not a good one to listen to either.
I know better. I know that I do a lot of good things and stuff. But also, there's another scripture in the Bible that says, don't let your right hand know what your left hand's doing. Like when you give something, give $1,000 to somebody as a gift, forget about it. You've done it. You've done your thing. Right. Don't go around telling them, hey, look what I did. Look what I did. No, you want to forget it. When you do something good for somebody, walk away and just say, Lord, thank you for letting me do that. I hope this helps. And so that's the best way to go, I think.
I agree. Well, this sounds like a good way to kind of wrap things up too. You have any? I'd like to kind of end with if you have any advice for stunt people coming up in the business, that are just new, starting out, or maybe that they've been in the business a while and thinking if this is still
the viable way to make a living.
The right way to make a living. And
I can't answer that.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know where the business is going right now. Right now it's in a, I don't want to get political, but like right now there's a certain party that's in a hole. It's like our business is in a hole. And is it going to come out of it? I don't know. But I don't believe it's going to stay where it is. I think we will. And matter of fact, it's starting to turn back a little bit, where all of a sudden people don't want to see all this stuff that we're watching. Disney has changed their modus operandi too. A lot of companies have, and they're going back to action shows and this and this. And I think just hang in there, because there's always going to be bad times like this. I've been through this so many times.
Yeah, I'm sure
about, all of a sudden I'm cleaning houseboat hulls to make a living because there's no stunt work. And so I've been through it a bunch, and I think it'll be fine. It's just you got to be patient. Like the scripture I told you, be patient, and he'll help you.
Yeah.
And but you and a lot of other stunt people I know, Andy Rusk and Jason Keeler and Andy Martin, and the Lord, I pray for you guys every night, and to help you with your business and stuff. And everybody's been doing stuff. Everybody's been getting some work here, getting some work there, keeping themselves going. And Abby Martin, she's gotten some work working here recently. She's been doing pretty good. And It's out there. It's just going to take some time.
Well, he's answering your prayer, but not through me, through my wife. She's getting the work right now, but I don't.
Well,
it's not somebody's work.
But I'll tell you one thing, and I'll tell you to every stunt guy, I said, when you find somebody that got a job that you didn't get, or they're real happy they got a job, be happy for them.
Yeah.
And that's going to make you feel better. If all of a sudden, because that's one of the bad things about stunt people. And you new guys that are coming up, remember this: be happy when your friends get stunt work. Don't be jealous of them. Be happy.
Yeah.
So,
No matter how hard it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's especially rough when it's a job that you also were trying to get.
Right.
And that'll happen a lot.
Oh,
all the time.
I've had many times. And Andy Martin, he was doing Walking Dead. He was coordinating that show. And all of a sudden, I get offered the show. And I have to let him know what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, he said, take the show, because then you can hire me. Well, that's how it worked.
Yeah.
Ended up doing it. Same thing happened on Stranger Things.
Yeah.
You know, Steve Ritchie was on it first, and then Cal Johnson.
Ritchie had that first? And
then Cal Johnson, then Andy Martin, and me.
And then you.
And then two other coordinators since me.
Hito?
Huh?
Hito?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I could have probably kept that show if I'd kept my mouth shut. It's another thing you guys want to do is keep your mouth shut.
Keep your mouth shut.
Don't take my word for it.
Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I now I remember why I learned that song. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's all righty then.
All right. Well.
But to go back, which said, just stick to it.
Just
telling the young guys, stick to it, and don't quit training. You know, and it doesn't mean you have to go out train sliding cars around every day. If you can, if you got the money to do that, great. Doesn't mean you have to go. You know, just train. Keep yourself in good shape.
Keep yourself in shape.
And so that and keep yourself a little thinner than you might like, because you can always put pads on to double somebody, but you can't take the fat off.
That's a hard one right there.
Yeah. It's been easy. Here lately, I've got a heck of a diet. I can keep my weight down pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about gaining weight. I ain't gaining any, but I can't work now. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, I can work, but I couldn't slide a car around right now because actually now I could. I think my belly's good enough. But
yeah. All right.
Yeah. So, but I was sliding cars around just recently with. Well, I already told you that. That's right.
Well, yeah, that'd be fun. I'd love to work with you on the show, sliding cars around.
Well, you have.
Well, I mean, again.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, even if you're not coordinating, just working together, you know, just having.
Well, I have to use somebody else's equipment now. I don't have any of my own. I gave it all away when I found out I had cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andy Martin's got it, and Reese Fleetwood had some of my stuff. I just gave my air ram and my air mini trams. I gave everything away.
Yeah.
With a caveat.
What's that?
That if I need it, I need it back. Yeah. And you're going to bring it to me, because I'm not carrying that crap around anymore.
Yeah. And if you're ever in a chance to hire me, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because and Andy's tried a couple times already, and I haven't been able to work with him because of certain issues and stuff.
Sure.
And a lot of people said, "Don't you think it might be the age?" And I said, "Yeah, that has something to do with it. It might have a little bit, but I'm not really sure whether it's the cancer, the age, or the injuries. Because I never know from one moment to the next. Is it the cancer chemo causing this problem, or just frickin' 73 years old?
Yeah, or some injury that's just been hanging out there for a while.
32 fractures and concussions and bad knees.
Well, I have to say, you look amazing, Lonnie, for doing this business and all you've done and been through, and even the chemo recently and everything else.
I appreciate that.
Well, that's great.
That's him also. But he's the one thing it says in James is persevere. And I think it means, I don't think it just means persevere in your relationship with the Lord. Persevere there, of course, number one, but persevere in everything. And don't quit. Don't give up. And because the moment you give up, then you've got to replace what you gave up with something. And if you don't replace it with something, you're over in the corner drooling. You know, and that's what you don't want to do. And
That's
I'm real
great.
close to that.
Well, thanks again, Lonnie, for being on the show. Appreciate it so much. It was great talking with you, and so many great
What do
stories
you mean
and great
show?
advice.
This is like a mini series. What do you?
Yeah, I might have to put this in episodes.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna. Yeah, this is a long.
Well, you and Noons was a long one
It did
too.
go.
so
It did go pretty quick though.
It does. It's weird how quick it goes when
Yeah, because
you
that's
start talking. Because it's
a couple
been
hours.
A couple hours at
Yeah,
least. So
actually a little over 2 hours.
yeah,
Yeah, we can stop now because I got to pee.
I know. Same here. And thank you guys for joining us as well. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe. All that stuff really helps support the channel, what we're doing here. That is, if you like the content and you want to see more of it. But we'll see you all in the next one. Peace.
Adios.